speak tonight, please let me know, because we'll make a motion and do a vote to allow those of you to speak who have not already let me know. Thanks a lot. Good evening, everybody. It's a couple minutes past 6, and although we still have a couple people checking in, we're going to get started tonight. So I'm going to call this meeting to order. Welcome to the 2022 Town Meeting First Session, also known as the Deliberative Session. I'm John Hennessy, the moderator pro tem. And in a few minutes, I'll go over some meeting information with everybody. But first, I'd like to turn it over to the Chair of the Select Board, Carrie Gendro, for the Pledge of Allegiance. If you could please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. Just some basic room information quickly. You got 2 exits in the back here. Restrooms are out this door that you came in to the right. Both men's and women's are down that corridor. I'm going to start with some introductions of the folks sitting here at the front of the room. I can't see you guys in order. If you can just raise your hand when I call your name, I would appreciate it. Carrie Gendro, Chair of the Select Board. Roger Emerson, Vice Chair of the Select Board. Milton Bratz, Select Board Member. Jim Gleason, Town Manager. Lori Bolosevich, Finance Manager. Vicki Potter, Administrative Secretary. Judy White, Town Clerk. And here in front of me is Walter Mitchell, Town Council. Did I get everybody? Great, thank you. And as far as our representatives in Concord, we have Senator Aaron Hennessy here tonight in the audience as well. And if I missed anyone, feel free to shout at me, raise your hand. Thank you. There's also a lot of people who make these meetings happen, which I've learned, so just want to say thanks to everyone who does all this room setup, volunteers who check everyone in, town clerk, supervisors of the checklist. There's a lot of people behind the scenes that make this stuff happen, and more so than I even realized, so thanks to everyone who helps out with these things. So I'm John Hennessy, Moderator Pro Tem, which is an interim moderator position. I was appointed by the supervisors of the checklist, and I'll be serving until the next town meeting coming up in March when you elect the next moderator. And I'd appreciate it tonight if you let me start by allowing me a few minutes to make an important recognition. No one wants me at the podium here tonight, including me, because that means that Gerald Wynn is not here as your moderator. Gerald was the longest consecutively serving moderator ever in the state of New Hampshire, serving us here in Littleton for 56 years. We were extremely fortunate to have had Gerald's dedicated service to our town, and he'll be sorely missed not only as our moderator, but as a family member, a friend, and a community member. So I'd ask you one more time, if you please stand with me. And join me in a moment of silence to recognize Gerald. Thank you. Please be seated. So I promise you I will not come anywhere close to doing this as well as Gerald. I'm going to mess something up. I just don't know what yet. Might be a lot of things, and luckily you're all here. So when I do, please help me out, and we'll get it right, and we'll move on. So like I said, this is the first session of the 2022 town meeting. The second session, which is the official ballot voting day, is Tuesday, March 8th from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. at the Littleton Highway Garage. So tonight's session is a legislative session. You, the registered voters, are the legislative body, and we're here with a specific purpose, and only the purpose, to discuss the warrant as posted. That's the only official business we're here to do. So this meeting's different than an open public meeting where there's wide latitude to say anything you want about any topic. We're really here only to discuss the items that were posted on the warrant, which is prescribed by state law. So we'll read each warrant article. There'll be a motion and a second to move the article. Someone likely from the select board will speak to the article briefly, and then we will open discussion to the floor. Any registered voters of Littleton, should you choose to, you can exercise your right to ask questions, deliberate, or even amend the warrant articles. And then when discussion's done, you'll vote to move the article to the voting day. And then when all articles have been voted on, that concludes the meeting for tonight. If you have an amendment that you'd like to introduce, it needs to be in writing. And if you already know you're going to propose an amendment, you feel free to get started now in writing it so that we have it when the time comes. Deliver those to me when we're discussing the article, and we'll give it the attention that it deserves. So Littleton registered voters are permitted to speak tonight automatically. If you're not a registered voter but a resident of Littleton, or if you're a resident of another town, I have a list going right now of anyone who's requested to speak. In a minute, we'll take a vote. I'll read the list, and you will vote whether we allow that. It has been a custom at this meeting to allow that in the past consistently. So if there's anyone who has not provided me their name that wants to speak tonight, it's not a registered voter, this is your chance to do it. You should have checked in as a Littleton registered voter and gotten a card. You'll need this. If you don't have one, please go see the folks at the front. This will allow you to speak and for your vote to be counted. So the list I have so far, by nature of being town employees who may be available to answer one of your questions, we have Lori Bolosevich, Doug Damko, Steve Bean, Chief Mike McQuillan, Captain Chad Miller, Walter Mitchell, Town Council, Jim Gleason, Megan Carr, and then residents of other towns or non-registered voters of Littleton, Chris Wilkins of Bethlehem, Jessica Foster of Littleton, and Robin Christoph of Barnet, Vermont. Those folks have all requested your permission to speak tonight, and if you'd like to make a motion, I'd entertain one now.
Make that motion.
So moved, Carrie, thank you. Seconded by Milt. Any discussion? And when I ask for a vote, we'll go with a voice vote, but if you could also hold your card up, either a yay vote or a no vote, I'd appreciate it. It'll help me determine which side is the prevailing vote. So all those in favor of allowing those folks to speak, say yay. All those opposed say no. Thank you. We will say aye, as is customary. Thank you. So if you'd like to speak, we've got a microphone right here in the front. If there's someone already there, please feel free to queue up behind that person. We'll let everyone speak once. We'd like everyone to have the opportunity to speak tonight. And then if everyone has had their chance to speak once and you'd like to speak again, I'll give you the opportunity to do so. When speaking, this is the quickest way to get your hand slapped at this meeting. If you don't say your full name and your town of residence before you speak, please remember to do that. And if there is a vote to end discussion on an article, I will allow the people who are already standing in queue who have stood up to speak will be able to speak, and then we'll end the discussion after that. As this meeting's always done, please self-monitor, keep a reasonable amount of time, certainly make your point. Address the moderator and not one another. No personal attacks, of course, as always. If someone does, consistently get out of line, which I don't anticipate will happen, you'll be warned, and if it happens continuously, could be asked to leave the meeting. But I certainly don't anticipate that'll happen. As is often the case, I would strongly recommend that we finish this meeting tonight. There is a backup date available should we need it. It's Friday night at 6 p.m. right here. But I don't see any reason why we can't finish tonight, but that is certainly up to your discretion. And the final point I want to make is reconsideration. So once an article has been voted on, sometimes in the past there's been a desire to vote at the beginning of the meeting to disallow reconsideration for all articles that are presented. That is not binding. What we have to do is wait till the vote is taken on each article before we can vote to not reconsider. So you got a couple options. We can do it every article if that's what you choose to do. That may get cumbersome. You may want to just wait until 5 articles have passed or 10 articles, and if you would like to, you could make a motion at that time. So it's totally up to you. I'm just offering some suggestions to keep the meeting moving along and to meet with what your desires may be. Anything additional that I failed to mention that's important? Okay. All right, we'll move on to the business at hand. So Article 1 is the election of officials. That article does not need to be deliberated. That automatically moves to the vote. So I will not read that article. And we'll consider that moved, and we'll move on to further articles.
Mr. Moderator, would like to make a motion to jump to Article 35 through 45 and vote on them individually. They are the petitioned warrant articles. With your
Okay.
permission.
So there's a motion. Do we have a second on that motion? Second. Thank you. So there's a motion and a second to first address Articles 35 through 45 and then return to Article 2 and go through the rest of the articles sequentially after that. Is there any discussion on that motion? Okay. All in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say no. Okay, that's clearly passed in favor. Okay, so I will turn it over to Jim Gleason, Town Manager, who's going to read the articles.
Test 1, 2, 3. Everybody hear me in the back? I'm not new to budgeting, but I am new to the deliberative session. And like all meetings, I feel like I'm at church when everybody sits at the back. There were plenty of seats up here that you could have come up and joined us. But I do stress that this is being live streamed. So as John said, if you've got comments or what have you, it's best if you come to the microphone and identify yourself so that the public at home can also maybe hear your question in terms of that process. I'm going to go ahead and start with Article 35. Article 35 is a petition from the Chamber of Commerce, downtown beautification. It's to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $18,741 to support downtown beautification efforts, a partnership between the town of Littleton, the Littleton Area Chamber of Commerce, including the downtown flowers, holiday decorations, and any savings realized while purchasing these items would then be used for additional chamber events and activities by petition. The estimated tax impact is 0.25 cents per 1,000. The Board of Selectmen recommended this 3-0, and the Budget Committee recommended this item 6-0.
I'll make that motion.
A second? Okay, the motion has been made and seconded. That would open it up for any discussion or questions. Hearing none?
Okay. Hearing none, we'll take the vote. So Article 35, we're voting on the petition, Chamber of Commerce Downtown Beautification. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Ayes have it. Thank you. On to Article 36.
Article 36 is a petition from the Grafton County Senior Citizens Council. Shall the voters raise and appropriate $35,000 to Grafton County Senior Citizens Council, Incorporated, through the Littleton Area Senior Center and the Service Link Resource Center for the services for Littleton residents in 2022. From July 1st of 2020 to June 30th of 2021, the Littleton Area Senior Center provided services for 2,327 Littleton residents, and Service Link provided services for 229 residents. These services included nutrition, transportation, outreach support, Service Link support, and more. The cost of providing these services was $761,015.79 by petition. The estimated tax impact of this item is 0.47 cents per 1,000. It was recommended by the Board of Selectmen 3-0, recommended by the Budget Committee 6-0.
I'll make that motion.
Second. We have a motion, we have a second. Open the item for discussion.
Okay, hearing no discussion, we'll move to the vote. Article 36, petition Grafton County Senior Citizens Council. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Ayes have it. Thank you. Article 37.
Article 37, petition Tri-County Community Action to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $11,750 for the operation of the Tri-County Community Action Program Incorporated, Services Program in Littleton, transportation, energy assistance, weatherization, guardianship, Head Start, homeless intervention and prevention, disaster relief, Tamworth Dental Center by petition. Estimated tax impact is 0.016 cents per 1,000, recommended by the Board of Selectmen 3-0, recommended by the Budget Committee 6-0.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded. Open for discussion.
Hearing no discussion, we'll move to the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. On to Article 38.
Article 38, petition for the Ammonoosuc Community Health Services to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $15,000 for Ammonoosuc Community Health Services Incorporated, ACHS, ACHS is a nonprofit community health center that's provide primary preventive health care to anyone, regardless of the ability to pay. This will help ACS continue to provide high-quality care to 2,097 current Littleton residents, as well as they reach more of those in need, by petition. Estimated tax impact is 0.020 cents per 1,000. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 3-0. Recommended by the Budget Committee, 6-0. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion to move that.
I'll second.
There's been a motion and second. Open for discussion.
Hearing no discussion, we'll move to the vote on Article 38. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Move to Article 39.
Article 39, petition Pathways Pregnancy Care Center to see if the town of Littleton will vote by petition assist Pathways Pregnancy Care Center in the amount of $3,200 to help in maintaining and increasing Pathways Baby Boutique and Learn to Earn programs. The Baby Boutique supplies diapers, wipes, clothing, and other baby essentials to families free of charge on a monthly basis. The Learn to Earn program enables mothers and fathers who take Pathways free parenting education and other life skills to earn points, which can be used to take additional items such as car seats, strollers, pack and plays from the Baby Boutique. Learn to Earn allows clients to receive a hand up rather than just a hand out. All Pathway services are free and confidential. Estimated tax impact is 0.004 cents per 1,000. Recommended by the board, 2-1. Recommended by the Budget Committee, 6-0. Is there a motion?
I move.
I'll second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Open for discussion.
Hi, my name is Angel Marshall from Littleton, New Hampshire. I'm the Executive Director of Pathways Pregnancy Care Center. And I wanted to see if we could add that 85 families were served in 2021, in addition to 2,446 items that were provided to the clients.
So if you're proposing to amend, yes, you can bring that up to me now, please. And where would you like that added in the article? I'll need to know that as well.
Right before the last sentence here, right after handout.
Right after handout.
Yep.
Okay, I'll add it sequentially. So we have a proposed amendment, and it would need a second to go to a vote.
I'll second.
Okay. Can you
And
give me
so-
can you give me your name one more time, please?
Angel Marshall.
Thank you, Angel.
Sure. And then just a quick question. I see,
Yep.
Could you ever get closer to the microphone, please?
Sure, yeah. Folks can't hear
sorry,
you.
I
Thanks a
didn't want
lot.
to get too close. Is that better?
Get real close, please. We can't hear you.
Do it-
Is that
do it-
better? Okay.
Okay.
So my question is, I see that it's recommended by the Board of Selectmen 2-1. Just curious if either of the two would be willing to discuss why they voted for the article. Thank you.
So we do have a motion for an amendment as well as a second. I believe we need to take action on the amendment prior to further discussion. So is there any discussion on the amendment before we vote on that? Mr. Discussion on that? Okay, we do have someone next to you.
Mr. Moderator, my memory may be wrong, but I believe from past town meetings, it's forbidden to amend a petition article.
No, it's regardless of what may have been discussed or happened in the past, it is permitted for this body to amend a petition article. It's the select board that does not have the authority to amend the article prior to putting it on the warrant for discussion tonight. Further discussion on the amendment itself. Okay, so we're going to take a vote on the amendment. Just to repeat what it is, it's after the words handout at the end of the article. It's to insert 85 families served, 2,446 items provided to clients. All those in favor of the amendment say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Okay, the amendment passes. Back open to discussion of the article as amended.
My name is Ron Bolt, Littleton resident, and I've got a question, a generic question on these articles that we're breezing through. Did the Budget Committee receive testimony from each and every one of these petitioners?
If there's someone who'd like to answer that.
John Piet from Littleton, and I was on the Budget Committee. On some of these, we did not receive any presentation from the members of these groups if they were long-standing petition articles, as you'll recognize from prior ballots. So if there was no change to what they were asking for due to COVID, and there were plenty of meetings as it was, we said they didn't have to come to present if they weren't changing what they were asking for.
Other discussion on Article 39 as amended.
So just the question if one of the selectmen would wish to speak why they voted for the article.
We were just advised that unfortunately we can't really speak for or against, only because then it would open us up for more discussion.
Okay.
I can say this, I am in favor of it, so I just sneak that in there.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. We'll move to the vote of the article as amended, which, as a reminder, after handout has 85 families served, 2,446 items provided to clients. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Ayes have it. Move to 40.
Article 40, petition for CASA of New Hampshire to see if the voters of the town of Littleton will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $750 for the recruitment and retention of CASA volunteer advocates. CASA of New Hampshire is a nonprofit that provides a voice for abused and neglected children and youth by empowering a statewide network of trained volunteers to advocate on their behalf so they can thrive in a safe and in a permanent home. The estimated tax impact of this is 0.001 cents per thousand, recommended by the Board of Selectmen 3-0, recommended by the Budget Committee 6-0. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
It's been motioned and seconded. Open for discussion.
Elaine French, Littleton, New Hampshire. I am a CASA. As mentioned here, we are a group of volunteers, and what we do is that I'm going to read my notes. Our purpose is to provide well-trained and caring guardian ad litem, also known as GALs, for abused and neglected children who come to the attention of New Hampshire's courts through no fault of their own. The reason we are requesting $750 is we would like to train a new person to be working out of the Littleton court. The annual cost of supporting one advocate is $2,000. Each advocate supports on average 2.5 children for the duration of a case, which can last as long as 2 years. We are trained and we have continuing education, and we take this on knowing that we will be spending anywhere from 5 to 20 hours a month working on this particular case. Part of what we do is we see the child at least once a month, and we talk to any adult involved in the case at least once a month. If we are not able to take on a case, then it is transferred to professional guardian ad litems. These people are paid $60 an hour. They also get travel costs. They are only required to see a child once a year. We save, as in CASAs, we save the state of New Hampshire approximately $5.3 million a year because of our volunteers. We are the only nonprofit organization in the state that recruits, trains, and supports volunteers to do this work. CASA of New Hampshire was founded in 1989, and the organization now serves every district and family court throughout the state. Currently, we supervise 614 CASA advocates like myself. Our goal is to increase our volunteer base so that we can accept 100% of the cases. In 2021, CASA served 1,417 New Hampshire children. Of those children, we served 31 children here at the Littleton Family Court, and 22 of the children originated here in the town. We did have to turn a couple of cases away because we do not have enough advocates. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Voting on Article 40. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, say no. Ayes have it. Moving to Article 41.
Article 41, petition, Boys and Girls Club, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $11,000 to support the Boys and Girls Club of North Country in order to provide a health, safety, and productive after-school and vacation camp environment for children from Littleton and the local community. The club provides busing from the school to the club for after-school programs, which that alone costs $18,000 a year by petition. Estimated tax impact is 0.15 cents per thousand. Recommended by the Selectmen 3-0. Recommended by the Budget Committee 5-1. Is there a motion?
Make that motion.
Second.
It's been motioned second. Open for discussion.
John Piet from Littleton again. My understanding is that Littleton has a after-school program and a summer program, and I'm wondering if there's anyone from the boys. This is one of the articles that did not have any presentation about it, and for the prior year, Boys and Girls Club closed, but they still took the donation, and then we have no idea what happened to it, and they didn't come back to have any explanation as to where this money was going and whatnot. So I'm wondering if that $18,000 is for just Littleton students or all area students, Franconia, Lisbon, Sugar Hill, whatnot. And I was wondering, is anyone from the Boys and Girl Club here to answer that?
You got it wrong. It's not 18,000, it's 11,000. 18,000 transportation.
Right, they're asking for 11, but they're saying it cost 18 to bus.
That's not what they're asking for. They're asking for 11,000.
Correct, they're not asking for 18. I understand that. I'm wondering if that cost that they're talking about is for Littleton students or all their students.
Yep, so if anyone from the Boys and Girls Club would like to speak, feel free.
Good evening, Erin Hennessy. I am not from the Boys and Girls Club, but I was informed that the $18,000 is busing for Littleton students. And as well, they also do busing and provide a program to Littleton students for the winter program in lieu of skiing or some other activities. So their costs for the town of Littleton far exceed the $11,000.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll move Article 41 to the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Ayes have it. Article 42.
Article 42, petition, Second Chance Animal Rescue, to see if the voters of the town of Littleton will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $5,000 for the Second Chance Animal Rescue. Second Chance Animal Rescue is a nonprofit that provides care and shelter for abused cats and kittens. Second Chance Animal Rescue also sponsors monthly low-cost spay and neuter clinics for both dogs and cats by petition. Estimated tax impact is .007 cents per 1,000. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 3-0. Recommended by the Budget Committee, 6-0. Is there a motion?
Make a motion, move that. Second.
We have a motion and a second. It's open for discussion.
Seeing no discussion, we'll move to the vote. Article 42, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Article 43,
Article 43, petition, North Country Home Health and Hospice, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $21,500 for the purpose of supporting hospice, home health, palliative and long-term care services provided by North Country Home and Health and Hospice by petition. The estimated tax impact is .029 cents per 1,000. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 3-0. Recommended by the Budget Committee, 6-0. Is there a motion and a second?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Open for discussion.
seeing no discussion, we'll move to the vote. Article 43, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Article 44,
Article 44, petition, Friends of Remick Park, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $30,000 to remove and dispose of the current condemned Remick Park gazebo and replace with a pavilion by petition. Estimated tax impact is .041 cents per thousand. Board of Selectmen abstained, 0 to 3. Budget Committee voted 1 no and 5 to abstain. And the 3 abstain and the 5 abstain. It was because there wasn't information that was presented to the Budget Committee or the board on what was going to be done involving the $30,000.
I'll make the motion, Jim.
Motion, second?
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Open for discussion.
Bruce Hadlock. I guess I gotta find my card here. I don't understand why they haven't gone to the school to build this. The school has a program. They probably spent this much in advertising. I can't imagine the amount of advertising that they've spent trying to promote this thing on it and getting bids. But why didn't they go to the school and have the school enter into a contract on the thing on it to do the actual physical building of the building on it? It's a trade. We have a trade program out of it in here, and that's what should be done. So why, I'm asking somebody, why didn't they do it?
Who are you saying didn't do it? The Friends of Lakeway?
No.
To-
I'm not sure who does it from the point of what it would be, but the fact is, whoever is responsible for putting this together should have gone to the school and for the construction part of it.
Mr. Hadlock, there's someone who is looking to speak. You may get an answer to your question.
Hello, Chris Wilkins. I am a board member for Friends of Remick Park. Collaboration with the school has been discussed in the past, and generally, they have a curriculum that's already set up. And even if we were to go through them, there are still costs associated with that for their time, labor, setup. There are things that the school would not do, such as the concrete slab. So that can be discussed further with the school, but in general, they already have their curriculum set up, and that is
It doesn't sound feasible on it, because if somebody was on that committee and you had to pour concrete, you subcontract it out and do the work. Somebody doesn't know what they're doing. My recommendation is you don't do it and go back to the school pertaining to it. It's kind of ridiculous that it's not handled in a good manner. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hadlock. There will still need to be funding. The school doesn't just do these things for free, and it's also a timing issue for them, so. All right. Chris Wilkins, board member. So the pavilion is currently condemned. We did get a quote to have it repaired in its current state, and that was over $100,000. And the board came up with a pavilion as an alternative to repairs for safety as well as our programming. And we feel that it is a necessity in the park. So thank you for your time.
Steve Kelly, Budget Committee, echoing obviously what was read from the board. That was the exact position we had, just because we weren't informed. But before Chris leaves, the $30,000, is that the entire cost of the project? And how big is that pavilion going to be?
No, thank you. I don't know the exact footage. It looks like a 24 by 24 pavilion, and that includes, it's an 8-inch concrete pad. So it's much larger than our current gazebo. Will facilitate our concerts, programming, rentals in the park. So, and that will include the construction materials as well as any labor involved in that process.
So that is the entire cost?
That's the cost.
Okay. Thank you for that, Steve Kelly again. Okay, I guess my first reaction is that I don't think that pavilion's big enough. I think I'm certainly in favor of doing whatever for the parks, and obviously over the years, they've been one of the most underfunded departments of the town, and they've always done above and beyond with whatever resources we've given them. But whatever we do, I want to do it right, I want to do it big enough. I'm not against the $30,000. And I guess my next question would be, if we vote this, I believe the selectmen would still have control over dispensing this money. I don't think the money's just going to go without supervision to build the gazebo. Is that correct?
Yeah, the funds would be held by the town. And so invoices, just like a construction draw, they'd have to submit, in terms of, one, the plan for the whole project, and then payment as steps are done in reference to demolition, to buying supplies, to the labor. So it would still go through the board.
Okay. But if the selectmen were not satisfied with the plan or thought it needed to be enhanced, would they have the ability to withhold those funds until there was an approved project?
I would have to defer that to maybe the attorney or the board of selectmen. I'm not cognizant on that.
As Remick Park is a town facility, Friends of Remick Park does not have any say over that property. We're advocates for it. Friends of Remick Park built the original playground in 1989. They assisted with the brand-new playground put in by the Parks Department a little over a year ago. And so it's a partnership, and we're here to advocate and make sure that things that need to happen in the park can happen, and people are speaking up for recreation in the town of Littleton.
And Mr. Kelly, as I understand, there's a time frame on these if a warrant article is passed. So maybe if within that time frame, it's determined that the $30,000 doesn't quite cover in terms of what's there, then that's when the board may be able to step in and either see if there's some additional funding, whether there's community funding. There are folks here in the community, some have had their names on that gazebo, so there may be then options to look at to make up that difference in other ways.
I'm definitely in favor of the idea. I just want to make sure it's done right, and that 30 isn't, I don't think a 24 by 24 is big enough. I think that, in talking with some of the other people who run the parks program for the town, they're looking forward to it as a site where they can have various activities on rainy days, or whatever the case may be. And 24 by 24 is just not that large a facility. I'm a great supporter of the summer concerts. I think that is great, and I think whatever we can do to enhance that will be appropriate. So I'm in favor, but I just would like to think there will be oversight moving forward.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Sorry, Chris.
One other quick question. The town,
Name.
sorry, John Piet, Budget Committee, Littleton. The town, the Parks and Rec Department came to the Budget Committee with the replacement cost of the gazebo of $120,000. Then we later saw this petition. Can you speak to the difference of where the difference of the $90,000 of why the other proposal was 120 and this one's 30?
So some of the repairs that would need to be made have to deal with the foundation and sill of it. So you're bringing in a lot more machinery to be able to get underneath it. It's also a very intricate structure as is. The replacement is, it's fairly simple, but more rustic design than the kind of elegant gazebo that it is now. So that is where the difference comes from, sir.
Any further discussion?
Bruce Hadlock. I believe that the gazebo in turn was reconstructed and the money was put up in favor of by the LaHoots out of it. And it was in favor when Gladys LaHoot passed away. This is not Mrs. LaHoot, this is their sister of Joe LaHoot. And consequently, here you guys are tearing something down without getting them involved with it. And this is, it just doesn't add up because the fact that it was done with the fact of the LaHoots in mind out of it, and they did it in favor of Gladys LaHoot. And I think people donated money in her behalf as well as the LaHoot family too. So if you're not bringing that in and it hasn't been addressed, it just doesn't sound like you're doing a good job.
Both Herb and Ron LaHoot were in attendance at our last meeting and may have been in attendance at others as well. They are in favor of it and have been a part of this process, sir.
Further discussion? Okay, seeing none, we'll take the vote on Article 44. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Ayes have it. 45.
Article 45, petition, Conservation Commission, to see if the town of Littleton will vote to add 2 abutting town-owned parcels of land to the Eaton Town Forest. Parcel 1 is known as the Pest House lot. It's map 68, lot 20, and it's 9.4 acres. Parcel 2, map 69, lot 4, is 0.49 acres. Combined, that would be adding about 10 acres to the Eaton Town Forest. The estimated tax impact is none. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 3-0. Recommended by the Budget Committee, 5-1. Is there a motion? Second. We have a motion and a second. Open for discussion.
Tom Alt, and I'm speaking for the Conservation Commission. Last year at town meeting, by an overwhelming positive vote, the town elected to make the Eaton land up off of, help me out here, Richmond Street, become a town forest. And as many of you know, at that same time, there was a push by certain interests in town to sell that to a developer and to put it into a lot of different kinds of housing. This year, we're trying to take 2 other pieces of vacant town-owned land and add them to the town forest. The Pest House property has been owned by the town since the 1960s, and it has a very interesting history going back in time when certain towns, in order to isolate people in towns that had communicable diseases, would move them to a house that was distant from the rest of the town until the people hopefully recovered. The other piece is a small sliver of land up on the opposing corner from the pest house property. Both of these also abut town roads, so it would be helpful for access onto the town forest. That other little piece has been vacant town land since the 90s. The interesting thing about that little piece we call the sliver, it's basically a wet ditch. As you can see, it's about a half an acre in size. And if you look at the town assessed value at $95,000, it makes you wonder how accurate our total estimated assessed value of town property is. So both these would be very helpful for access and future parking and that type of thing on the town forest. There is no tax impact. We would keep it open space along with the town forest and make it available for people to enjoy the nature that still exists in this town.
Hello, my name's Steve Kelly. I'm not here to speak against this at all. I mean, it's obviously a well-supported program. I'm just going to take the opportunity to remind the town that as part of the original negotiated deal with the Eaton family, there is a provision in there that at some point in time, a roadway, pathway, hiking trail, or whatever needs to be named Michael's Walk in memory of Stephanie Eaton's child who died young in life. And I just want to, that needs to be on the list, Tom, of things to do, and I'm sure that you can appreciate that. Thank you.
Mr. Auld, I want to thank you for the educational history. Now I know why my office is referred to as the pest office, so I realize now what the staff is in sending a message to me. Okay, thanks.
Bruce Hadlock, I'd like to recommend that this be, and I'll vote for it on it from that end. Part of what you have is the fact that there's no right-of-way to the 69.4 lot, the thing on, the bigger one, the pest house property. There's absolutely no right-of-way to it. And by putting these two together, you'd be able to get to it, even though the town owns it from the point of it. But it was a landlocked piece of land with no right-of-way. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Okay, we'll move to vote. Article 45. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Ayes have it. So we've concluded the original proposal to handle the petition warrant articles first through Article 45. Just a reminder, if anyone desires to, could be a convenient time to restrict reconsideration, but that's totally up to you. And we're going to move on back to Article 2 and go through the remainder of the articles sequentially.
Article 2 is a petition zoning amendment, map and lot 79-176, to see if the town of Littleton, if the town will vote to change the zoning classification of map lot 79-176, a 12.9 acre parcel presently owned by the Rail Trail Properties LLC with a street address of 24 Beacon Street and currently is in the industrial zone, so that the parcel shall be in the mixed use zone if this petition were to be passed. Estimated tax impact is none. The recommendation of the Board of Selectmen is 3-0. Recommended by the Budget Committee is 6-0. And from a zoning standpoint, since the building back there is being redeveloped for studio and one-bedroom apartments, this would make the land surrounding that area much more attractive to mixed-use development for services, restaurants, and things like that that may actually then cater to and supply and service the people that are in there, which could actually enhance the town's tax base. Is there a motion?
Make a motion to move that?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and we have a second. Any discussion?
Hearing no discussion, we'll move to the vote. Article 2, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Ayes have it. Article 3,
Article 3, petition dash zoning amendment, map lot 79-178. To see if the town will vote to change the zoning classification of map lot 79-178, a 2.4 acre parcel presently owned by Rail Trail Properties LLC with a street address of 24 Beacon Street, currently in the industrial zone, so that the parcel shall be reclassified into the mixed-use I zone. And same comment I made on the first one would impact here. The estimated tax impact is none. It was recommended by the Board of Selectmen 3-0, recommended by the Budget Committee 6-0. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and we have a second. Open for discussion.
hearing no discussion, we'll move to the vote. Article 3, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Ayes have it. Article 4.
Okay, all right. Article 4, lease purchase agreement for portable radios. To see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to enter into a 7-year lease purchase agreement in the amount of $422,000 with first payment due 2023 for the purpose of replacing portable radios in police, fire, ambulance, and public works departments / parks and recreation, which are outdated and no longer able to be serviced. This lease does not contain an escape clause and will be treated as debt under RSA 33:4-A. Estimated tax impact is none for 2022, as the first payment is not until 2023. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen 3-0, recommended by the Budget Committee 4-0. It requires a 3/5 ballot vote, and this will be replacing Motorola radios that were purchased by the state almost 19 years ago. And they're no longer serviced by Motorola. They've extended their life of where they're no longer providing parts or servicing the radios. And do a motion. We have a motion. Second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Open for discussion.
Jim, clarification.
Oh.
Did you read the 422 or the 353? And
Well,
do we need to
I
make a
read
correction?
the original, and
We have it amended.
we have it
Okay.
amended. Okay. I wasn't sure if there's a motion to amend.
I think we have to read the first one because that was what was published.
Sure.
And then we do it as amended.
Okay, so
Okay.
we'll
Okay.
open for discussion, but I encourage you to let these, Jim, go
Yes.
ahead.
Yeah. Since this was written and first produced, we had gotten numbers from Motorola. So the amendment is to read Article 4, lease purchase agreement for portable radios. To see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to enter into a 7-year lease purchase agreement in the amount of $353,900 with the first payment due in 2023 for the purpose of replacing portable radios in police, fire, ambulance, public works, parks and rec, and also to be serviced. The lease does not contain an escape clause and is treated as a debt under RSA 33:4-A. Again, estimated tax impact is none for 2022. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen 3-0, recommended by the Budget Committee 4-0. It requires a 3/5 ballot vote. And the reason there's been a change in price is when we first talked to Motorola and gave them an inventory of what we thought we needed. They based it on pricing after March of 2022. After an on-site visit and meeting with all the departments, they were able to determine that not as much equipment was as needed as was initially proposed. And we also didn't get the 12% price increase that Motorola had indicated could possibly come in. So that amount did change from 422 to 353,900. Is there a motion on the amendment?
Make a motion on the amendment.
I'll second it.
We have a motion, we have a second.
And
Open
so-
for discussion.
For point of clarity, the only thing that changed, I've got the written request for amendment here, is the dollar amount itself and the words that describe the dollar amount. The remainder of the wording in the article remains identical to the original that you have. Open for discussion on the amendment.
I don't believe that you can amend any money pertaining to these articles out of it like that. Reduction or otherwise. You can't change the figure that's on here, and you can't put any different figures in here. So it's either voted out or don't vote for it, because I don't believe you can do that under the, that.
And what would be the basis, Bruce, that you would not be able to amend this article? The
Well-
fact that it's treated as a bond vote?
Well, no, it's been in the past out of it that was been said that you cannot in turn amend the financial part of it in dollars and cents one way or another. You can't change it up, you can't change it down. That's one of the items that was always in here. So by changing it, I don't think it's legal.
So any typical warrant article, this body is able to amend by majority vote the dollars in the article.
You can't change the dollar figures, I don't believe.
You may either change them up or down. Any clarification? Yeah, including in this type of lease bond vote article, correct? Yes, clarified by our attorney, you can in fact amend those if you choose to as a body.
How come we couldn't do it before? And his law firm was here before.
Well, that's actually my interpretation as well from reading the guidance, Bruce, that this body, by majority vote, can change dollar amounts. It can't change the subject matter of the article, but dollar amounts have always been able to be amended up or down.
Okay.
I agree. Ron Bolt. I've been out of the game for a while here, but 2 points. 60% vote is harder to get than 50% vote. So I'm sure you took that into consideration when you decided to bond this. And the other point is, we used to have a pretty high debt. We seem to be adding to it in this article and at least one other article later. So what is there a change in philosophy? Are we putting things into debt more regularly than we did in the past? Thank you.
Ron, hold that thought. I would like to tidy up the amendment that we have open for discussion. Any further discussion on the dollar amount amendment?
Rudy Jelser, Littleton, New Hampshire. I agree, with, about that all these agencies, they need a new radio, they need this. What I don't understand is,
Yeah, Rudy, is this specific to the amendment? I just want to close that before we take open comments on the article itself.
apologize.
No problem. So just hold that thought. Any further discussion on the dollar amendment? Okay, we'll vote on the amendment itself, reducing the dollar amount in the article from 422 to 353,900. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Ayes have it on the amendment itself. Now we'll open the floor back up to Mr. Bolt's question, if anyone wants to address that, and then Mr. Jelsi after that.
Refresh, Mr. Bolt. The question again? I apologize.
Two questions, really. One is really not a question, just a point. Obviously, when you go to a 60% vote, that's a higher hurdle to pass. So I'm sure you did that consciously. But I really don't understand why we are bonding these items, which I think in the past would have just been put out for a straight-up vote. And I would like to know what the current debt is and how much we're adding to it this year.
Two things. The reason this one is going through a bond vote is Motorola is almost a sole supplier for the radio, and they also offer the most attractive leasing program in terms of payment. So going with them for the 7-year is a tax savings to the voters, even though it doesn't require a 3/5 vote. So we were looking at that as an aspect that it was a tax saving on both the financing and the fact that the price went down. In reference to the overall town's vote, This does not take us higher than the current level. We've had debt that's come off in 2021, and additional debt based on payments in 2022. Adding this back in will not even take us back up to the current level of debt that you had going into 2021. So we're still staying in a well-manageable debt formula. You're not increasing the debt above beyond current levels, which have been reduced due to payments in 2021.
I get that argument from my wife all the time.
Thank you, sir.
I'd like to go to Mr. Gelsey first because I cut him off, and then you next.
Rudy Jelse, Littleton, New Hampshire. The only thing that I want to ask is this: why the voters, they got to read this Article 4, and then eventually next year, 2023, they got to come up with an answer, yes or no. Right now, if you ask me, the way this Article 4 is written, it's kind of confusing for a lot of people, for a lot of voters, because they don't know what are they going to vote on this over here. They're going to vote today for 2023 to see, you know, if they can collect that money over there to buy the radio. We understand, you know, that all these entities, they need new equipment, no question about that. But why people, they got to vote today for 2023? And, you know, the price is going to change on money. I would suggest that probably, you know, you guys do something about it, not let the people, you know, concentrate to vote on Article 4 today, I mean, in March, and then again in 2023, they're going to have the same, you know, the same discussion with the, you know.
Rudy, on 2 points. The amount that was mended is locked in. That price will not go up. That is locked in. So if it passes in March, that is the price that we have locked in with Motorola. There won't be any increase. I'm going to ask Lori, if possible, if she can give an idea of what that first year payment would be, which is, I think, is what you're asking, is what's that cost going to be for the first payment in 2023?
It's by the taxpayer, they got to vote twice?
No.
They got to vote 2022 and 2023
Well,
for
in
this particular?
2022, you're voting to raise the money, and then it starts getting spent in 2023. So you're raising it in 2022. So that amount that you're voting on, the amended amount.
Excuse me, don't you think that first line over there, estimated tax impact for 2022, it's known, okay? It's zero.
Right, because there's zero
Yeah,
payment
but
in 2022.
2023, how much is going to be?
Right, and that's what I've asked Lori to give you. What's the first payment for that $353,900? About $51,000 a year over the 7 years.
For 7 years,
Yes.
51?
Yes.
For 7 years, 51,000 every year. Thank you.
Okay.
To put a little more explanation behind to Ron's question there, sorry, John Piet, Littleton. The Budget Committee there's a lot of money being asked for on this ballot, and nearly all of it seemed nearly mandatory. And so this different approach is meant to be a shift in a long-term thinking. So the current radios lasted 21 years because they were from Homeland Security after 9/11 in 2001. If these new radios last half that time, then after we get past this 7 year, once we purchase them in 7 years and they're fully bought out, then we can start putting money aside for the next, so we can start shifting to a capital reserve plan. Right now, this town has no capital reserve plan to speak of, except for the cruisers, where they set aside $50,000, but everything else in the town seems to be falling apart. The sewer system doesn't, the treatment plant doesn't work, the library roof is leaking, the fire trucks are rotting out from underneath. And the street sweeper needs to be replaced, and there's all kinds of things here. So to get things supposedly back on track, the idea was that we would, on a short-term basis, borrow money against things that are going to outlast the debt. And then at that point, we start putting the money aside, so what was once loan payment now becomes capital reserve, and we can keep moving forward. And so it's kind of a change to, yes, we're going to borrow this money, but if we were going to, we thought it was 422, but 353 for radios, 255 for a street sweeper, $60,000 to repair the roof. There's still no pool. If we're going to put all that on one ballot, that was not going to happen, or the tax rate was going to be astronomical, not to mention the increased retirement that the town is going to be responsible for. And this doesn't even touch the $17 million school budget that we're talking about tomorrow. So you put all that together. The plan was to level fund so our debt payments do not increase over the next 5 years. But then at that 3 or 4 year period, things start becoming, we have more room. So at I want to say at year 4, there was $100,000 less in loan service that the town would have to pay. Don't quote me on that because I don't have the figures in front of me. But then essentially what happens is that $100,000, we either get tax savings or we can start putting money aside so we don't have to borrow anymore. But debt is a tool that now's not a bad time to lock in some rates because right now they're still really cheap. So let's change we get it so we borrow to get over the hump, and then once we get over that hump, start shifting. There is an overall plan, so we start shifting to a capital reserve fund so then we don't have to borrow anymore. Does that help answer the question?
Yeah, go ahead. Actually, we had someone queuing in the back. Do you want to take first crack?
This is just Ray Bowler. This is just a question on clarification. The title of the article is for portable radios, but either chief can answer for me because I already know the answer. But this is for mobiles, for the trucks and cars, and the portable radios that the firefighters use, correct? Sorry, chief.
Mike McClellan, Fire Chief. So yeah, the portables are for, the police department is just doing the portables. The other, if you will, portable radio is the mobile radio that sits in the trucks. And that's for the highway department and for the fire department as well.
Go ahead.
Actually, it was my question about portable radios versus mobiles. And I don't know if the wording should be changed because this is going to tie you to portable radios. That's the way I see it anyways, for the lease purchase. Portables are handhelds. So I don't know, I'm not an expert on that, but that would be one of my questions. The other thing I want to know is how many radios are we talking about? And a 7-year lease purchase, does that mean that the payments are going as a lease until the 7-year period's up and then we own them?
Yes.
But the question still stands, if we vote this, technically, can we only buy portable radios with this?
That's not my understanding. Sometimes the DRA gives us the language, that we have to follow. A mobile radio can fall under the definition of portable because it can be taken out of a vehicle and moved to another vehicle.
If further description is desired, could be proposed in an amendment. If not, it's up to you.
Okay, Ron Bolt again. I appreciate that information, but it's not new. Steve Kelly, Linda McNeil, a few other people around here will remember us putting together a capital improvement plan about 10 or 12 years ago. And that was the whole idea, to lay these things out over time, put money in reserve so that we not hit with that one big year. So I would like to know what the status of the town's capital improvement plan is. Thank you.
and just for clarification, that's 89 radios in total between police, fire, and DPW. Looking at the portable radios, I was looking at portable radios as being the mobiles, and the portables as the base stations are the ones that are not portable. They can't get moved from vehicle to vehicle. They can't be pulled out. However, if we want to amend that, I'll leave that up to you guys if you want to amend it.
Anyone want to address Mr. Bolt's question regarding the capital plan?
Mr. Bolt, I'm new here, and I will echo what was said. The town doesn't have capital reserves, and during my first budget process with the BOS and the Budget Committee, it was something that I had stressed, because if you have a capital plan and you're putting money away every year, you smooth out these up and rides when you hit some of the equipment. You already are doing that now in the police department with $50,000 a year. You'll see, that'll be later here in the process. You have a line item for fire department, but it's only asking for $1,000, and you have a line item for public works that's asking for $1,000. And while that was a decision that was made by the board and the budget committee, but as the town manager, I have recommended that maybe next year, as we look at what may be excess in reserves, instead of maybe putting money towards buying down a tax, maybe that money goes into the capital plan, which effectively does the same thing, so that you don't have to raise taxes to buy equipment. So the goal would be to have a funding mechanism for capital items so that it would smooth out the ups and downs that you get when a 19-year-old piece of equipment goes and there was no plan to replace that. So that's a goal that I have in working with the BOS and the Budget Committee. But again, I make recommendations, they make the decisions, and you, the voters, make the final decision on whether or not you're willing to put money into capital reserve.
Bruce Hadlock, Rudy said that they were trying to purchase these, but it does say lease purchase, but it doesn't say on the end of the lease period of time, which is what, how many, 5 years? 7 years? It doesn't say that we're going to own them in the agreement. And I believe you should amend that thing that says something that says that the purchase or the ownership will come automatically at the end of the lease. And I recommend that the board do that.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, just to make the article clear, because I don't want anybody to get caught, down the road. I would like to make a motion to amend Article 4 to add just after portable, the two words "and mobile." And also, I would like to put at the front end of that, between replacing and portable, the number. And I don't remember what the number was. Maybe the chief could expand on that so I can, is it 89? Yeah.
You'd like to also add the specific number? Just that could tie hands if that
I'll leave
wanted
it
to be
go.
changed.
Just
Okay.
the change with the portable and mobile.
Great, I'll just need your amendment in writing, please. So we have a motion to amend to add the words "and mobile" after portable. Thank you. Can I keep this? Motion, is it seconded?
We have a motion and a second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on the amendment? On the amendment itself, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, say no. The amendment passes. Back to any further discussion on the now twice amended article. Okay, hearing none, we'll take the vote. Just to remind you, we've amended this twice. Once changed the dollar amount from $422,000 to $353,900 and added "and mobile" after portable. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Ayes have it. As amended, that passes, and we move to Article 5.
Article 5 is a sewer sewer bond, wastewater treatment plant improvements, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $1,930,000 for the wastewater treatment plant improvements and to authorize the issuance of not more than $1,930,000 of bonds or notes in accordance with the provisions of the Municipal Finance Act, RSA 33, and to authorize the selectmen to issue, negotiate, sell, and deliver said bonds and notes to determine the rate of interest and the maturity and other terms thereof, and to authorize the selectmen to apply for, obtain, accept federal, state, or other aid, if any, which may be available for said project, with the amount of such bonds or notes to be reduced by any grant and/or other funding received for the project, and to comply with all laws applicable to said project, and further authorize the selectmen to take any and other action or to pass any other vote relative to thereto. Estimated tax impact is none. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen is 3-0. Recommended by the Budget Committee is 6-0. Requires a 3/5 ballot vote. Is there a motion? We have a motion and a second. Open for discussion.
Any discussion on Article 5? Hearing none, we will take the vote. All those in favor to move Article 5, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Ayes have it. Move to Article 6.
Article 6, Public Works, Highway 10-wheel dump/plow truck purchase. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $198,171 for the purchase of a 10-wheel dump plow truck for the Public Works Highway Department, and to authorize the issuance of not more than $198,171 of bonds or notes in accordance with the provisions of the Municipal Finance Act, RSA 33, and to authorize selectmen to issue, negotiate, sell, and deliver such bonds or notes, and to determine the rate of interest thereon, the maturity, and other terms thereof, and further to authorize the selectmen to take any other action or to pass any other note relative thereto. Estimated tax impact is none for 2022. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 2-0. Recommended by the Budget Committee, 4-0. Requires a 3/5 ballot vote. Is there a motion?
Make that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Open for discussion.
George Morgan, Littleton resident. Just a question, is this an additional truck or is this a replacement truck?
It's a replacement truck.
Thank you.
We just voted on having two, and we're not replacing either one of those. So it's not a replacement. It's got to be an additional one. If we're replacing, we're taking the smaller trucks and getting rid of them. So it's not a replacement truck. Am I correct?
I will let Doug DeManco in after your comments,
Well,
Mr.
I
Hadlock,
guess-
answer that, but
I guess I'm asking the selectmen. This is their budget.
Replacing one of the 6-wheel trucks to a 10-wheel.
That's not what they were saying, though. It was a case of we voted on buying 2 10-wheelers last year. We're not replacing any of the 10-wheelers. We're replacing the smaller trucks. Now, this town in turn had used the small trucks to plow since plowing was done. And we're entering into buying another 3rd truck on it as a 10-wheeler. On it, I believe that you could buy 2 small trucks and still do the plowing without having to have another 10-wheeler. It just doesn't add up. Out of it that we've been using it and doing the same identical thing, and we're going to be adding another 10-wheeler. It's just not in the cards. Thank you.
Doug, would you just like to add some comment, please?
Good evening, Doug Damko, Public Works Director. Just give some clarification on Bruce's questions and comments. The Highway Department has had for their large trucks, they've had six-wheel trucks for a number of years, probably from the beginning. And so there was a decision made with a comprehensive vehicle replacement plan that I helped put together back in 2019 that started to get implemented in 2020 with the warrant article that approved the two 10-wheelers to replace those six-wheel trucks, all four of them, with 10-wheel trucks. And I presented all the benefits that gave to the Highway Department operations in terms of additional capacity. So this is just a continuation of that plan that was started back in 2020 to replace those four trucks with 10-wheelers.
So we are adding a new 10, but we were replacing a
Yes,
six-wheel.
and we will surplus, we have six-wheelers that are due for replacement, so those six-wheelers will be surplused. We do keep some of them as backup trucks, so we want to make sure we have a backup, that we have breakdowns on a regular basis, and backup trucks are a good thing to have. But we've been very pleased with those two 10-wheelers that have been in operation now for 2 winters, particularly with this last storm that hit us on Friday. Those 10-wheelers are excellent for snow removal. They're double the capacity of the six-wheelers. Our highway crew was able to move 3,000 yards of snow over the course of 3 nights, putting those two 10-wheelers to work in combination with some of the six-wheelers. But we're really seeing the benefit of that capacity just in that one area.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'm not in favor of this article out of the thing on it. I don't know that we ever heard from anybody saying that we were replacing all these small trucks with 10-wheelers. It's not a good thing out of it. We can in turn get the smaller trucks and continue to do it. We have no more roads. We're not plowing any more highways out of the thing on it. We haven't taken over anything, and it seems ridiculous. How much does it cost to have a small truck and a plow? I guess I'm asking the selectmen. You people are the ones that do the buying and doing it. How much does it cost for a small truck and a plow?
Mr. Damco will be able to answer that.
Bruce, can I help you?
Yeah.
Try to answer this right. Just to clarify, we're talking only about the large trucks that the town uses. We have a whole fleet of smaller 1.5-ton 550
That's not
trucks.
what you said. You said in your speech to us before that you were replacing every truck with 10-wheelers.
All the six-wheel large trucks.
That's what you said.
Right, there's 4 of them.
So we have never voted on that, never heard of it before pertaining to it, and it just doesn't add up that we're spending this kind of money to have that kind of fleet of vehicles. When you get down to snow removal, in the past out of it, if we've always taken the snow off the main street out of it, and if they need to, they can hire subcontractors and pay them to come in if they needed to. But it's nuts to think that we're going to need all these 10-wheelers on it. We just need to go, well, you could buy 2 for the price of what you got there.
George Morgan, Littleton resident. My question with regards, I have no problem with replacing a truck, but if you're keeping the truck that's being replaced in service, then you're not replacing the truck, you're buying an additional truck. And the one that you've taken out of service, I don't know what service headaches they have now, but they'll continue to have to be serviced and maintained, and there's costs associated with that. So either we're replacing it or we're buying an additional one.
It's a good question. Doug, can you address that?
The town currently has a 6-wheel truck that operates as a backup truck. So the goal would be to only maintain one backup truck. So if we're replacing a 6-wheeler with a 10-wheeler, and that 6-wheeler is in good enough condition, that might become the new backup truck, but we would surplus the other 6-wheelers. So the goal is to just keep one truck as a backup. Correct.
Okay. So one of the 6-wheelers, you're either the backup, or if this one is in better shape, will be surplused if this passes.
Correct.
Okay.
I also want to clarify the cost. The cost of a 6-wheeler is only about $30,000 less. And so we really looked at the cost benefit in the capacity. There's a cost, and for the additional cost to go up to a 10-wheeler, the benefits we've been seeing with it make a lot of sense operationally.
Mary Menzies, Town of Littleton. It's not my job to make your arguments for you, Doug, but I do remember this being discussed in the past, and I think there was some mention of fewer trips back and forth for sand and salt, and that was going to add to the operational efficiencies. Am I remembering that correctly?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on Article 6? Hearing none, we'll move to the vote. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Ayes have it. Article 7.
Article 7, Public Works, Highway Street Sweeper. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, the sum of $255,500 for the purchase of a street sweeper for the Public Works Highway Department, and to authorize the issuance of not more than $255,500 of bonds or notes in accordance with the provision of the Municipal Finance Act, RSA 33, and to authorize selectmen to issue, negotiate, sell, and deliver such bonds or notes, and to determine the rate of interest thereon, the maturity, and other terms thereof, and further to authorize the selectmen to take any other action or to pass any other vote relative thereto. If this article passes, then Article 9, which will be coming up, would be reduced by $67,925, which is an estimated tax impact reduction of 0.92 cents per thousand. Is there a motion and a second? Oh, excuse me. Estimated tax impact for 2022 is none. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen 3-0, recommended by the Budget Committee 4-2, and this also would require a 3/5 ballot vote. Now is there a motion? We have a motion. We have a second. Open for discussion.
Good evening, Dan Stearns, Littleton and Littleton Budget Committee. This article was one that was discussed at several of our meetings, and we were requesting information, and selectmen brought some forward with a contract for sweeping our streets. And we discussed it, debated it, and it all came down to how we can get the most bang for our buck. And as it turns out, the lease figure for the contracted services of $67,000 seems smaller than the purchase price, but in reality, over time, it's more expensive than buying our own sweeper. And we're getting more bang for the buck by biting the bullet and going for our replacement sweeper of the 19-year-old sweeper. And some of the details in the contract that we learned for the service from a company in Lincoln is that it would be for a limited amount of sweeping. We wouldn't get as much sweeping, obviously, than if we had our own sweeper in-house. And also, the sweeping would be for a major spring cleanup in June, and then possibly a lighter one in the later months. And we wouldn't get the frequency of sweeping on our main street, where obviously we're a tourist community and we want to keep it looking nice, and also our side streets. So that would not be part of the deal in this contracted service. And another bug in the ointment here is that the agreement for the contracted service would require 2 additional town employees to be taken off of their normal jobs to help service the removal of the swept material, because the contractor wants to keep the sweeper moving, and so the swept material would have to be transferred and offloaded to another site. So that is another inefficiency in the contracted option. So to summarize, I think, you know, it's a big amount, it's a big dollar amount, but over the course of the lease purchase, we would be saving money. And I think that was quite evident to the Board of Selectmen and to the town manager when we discussed it and made our final vote. So for all the folks at home and you here, take these points into consideration, and hopefully when you come out and vote in March this year, that you will vote for this and really save the town money and keep us looking clean and neat, as we're all accustomed to, for the great job that the Highway Department does for us day in and day out. Thank you very much.
We voted on taking the old sweeper and we sent it down to have it reconstructed on it a few years ago out of it. Does anybody remember that? The select board, do you remember what we did?
It's been a few years.
That's right, and we spent the money to reconstruct by sending it down there on it. There's nowhere in here that you're talking about selling it, disposing of it, and what Mr. Stearns had just said, if you in turn have to have two people to do it if it was a lease, you still got to have the same two people if you own it to take the stuff out. So that's kind of a toss-up pertaining to it. So I'm not saying they don't buy it, but I'm just saying some of those things should be brought up out of the thing on it.
Mr. Hadlick, I could clarify that. If you contract it, it's a smaller sweeper, and in order for them to be able to sweep, we would have to have dump trucks that would follow it in a rotation manner to be added. If a sweeper is purchased, it is a larger capacity sweeper. It does not need additional trucks or crew to run with it. That driver, when it's full, would drive it to the location where the dump trucks would and dump it, but that truck itself can do more street and can hold more material, so it's actually more efficient than
I hope
if
you're
it was
around here in
contracted.
2 years, because I don't think that you're right.
Oh,
Thank you.
we can agree to disagree, sir.
Rudy Jelsey, Littleton. Article 7, I go back an Article 4, why people, after they read this article, they gotta read estimated tax impact known in 2022. About 2023, how much this is gonna cost? Why don't, I don't understand why you guys, be, open to the voters and tell me, okay, 2022 it cost you $0, but 2023 is going to cost you whatever, which
Rudy, excellent question. And because the purchase, or excuse me, the contract services, are in the Article 9, the difference between the two is in Article 9, where you would be budgeting for contract, the first year would be $67,000. The purchase price for the sweeper over a 7-year period would be $38,000. So just in the first year alone, it's almost a 50% savings. And the $67,000 contract is also predicated on our sweeper being able to supplement what that sweeper can't do. And it's over 21 years old. It did go down and get some refurbished, but we are spending good money on a piece of equipment that's just not being serviced. So the purchase price of $38,000 versus $67,000 on contracting, that's the difference.
I don't doubt that you need a new sweeper. What I'm talking about is the price on the table. Today, in March, it's going to be $0. How much is going to be in 2023?
$38,000.
$38,000?
That's the purchase price. That's the highest, and then it goes down over the 7 years.
Okay. In your opinion, you think the taxpayer, they should know that, or just, what do you think? Or they just got to wait till next year to know that it's going to cost $38,000, to...
When we get to Article 9, that's where you'll see the difference of the impact on the tax rate.
Okay. I'm just talking about money.
No.
Thank you.
Very good question.
Any further discussion on Article 7? Hearing none, we'll move to the vote. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Move to Article 8.
Article 8, Public Works, Highway, 1.5 ton dump plow truck purchase. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $93,870 for the purchase of a 1.5 ton dump plow truck for the Public Works Highway Department, and to authorize the issuance of not more than $93,870 of bonds or notes in accordance with the provision of the Municipal Finance Act, RSA 33, and to authorize selectmen to issue, negotiate, sell, and deliver such bonds or notes, and to determine the rate of interest thereon and the maturity and other terms thereof, and further to authorize the selectmen to take any other action or to pass any other vote relative thereto. Estimated tax impact for the year 2022 is none. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen 3-0. Recommended by the Budget Committee 4-0. Requires a 3/5 ballot. Is there a motion? We have a motion and we have a second. Open for discussion.
George Morgan, Littleton. Same question as the other ones. Is this an additional truck or is it a replacement truck? And by the way, just for future, perhaps that should be part of all these purchase agreements that we're going to be voting on, so that if they're going to buy another truck, that it's a replacement. Thank you.
Duly noted, sir. Doug?
Doug Damko, Public Works Director. Yeah, it's the same discussion. Just to go over the highway fleet review really quickly for everybody, the town has 4 large trucks that serve out-of-town roads and 4 smaller trucks. This 1.5 ton truck is what we call an in-town truck. They're a Ford 550 or 1.5 ton class truck. So I have a replacement plan that I put together to replace all 8 of those trucks over their life cycle, either on a 7-year or 10-year life cycle replacement. And so these, the smaller 1.5 ton trucks are scheduled on a 7-year replacement cycle. So this one here is obviously one of those 4. The plan is, again, to keep one of those trucks in service, the best condition one of those trucks in service as a backup. The other trucks will be surplus.
So while it's a new one to the fleet, one of the trucks that you have existing will be surplus.
Right.
So it's not a +1, so
Right.
we're still at the same level.
Now, in this case here, there is a need for a truck at the transfer station to replace a truck of theirs that has already been surplus, so they don't have a truck at all.
Okay.
So the consideration is to move that over to the transfer station.
And this is a 2012?
This is one of these 1.5 ton trucks. But also to clarify too, so in terms of the replacement cycle, we have these 4 smaller 1.5 ton trucks scheduled for replacement. Hold on, I was looking at my notes here. In 2022, which is this warrant, 2023, 2024, and 2026.
Any further discussion on Article 8? Okay, we'll move to the vote. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Article 9.
Article 9, 2022 General Fund Operating Budget. Shall the town raise and appropriate as an operating budget for the general fund, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted on separately, the amount set forth on the budget posted with the warrant or as amended by a vote of the first session for the purpose set forth therein, totaling $9,593,608. The default budget, should this article be defeated, the default budget is $8,926,952, which is the same as last year, with certain adjustments required by provisions and actions of the town or by law, or the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 40:13, Roman numeral 10, and Roman numeral 16, to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only. If Article 7 passes, which was involving the sweeper, then this article operating budget amount, not the default budget, would be reduced by $67,925, which is what was put in for the contracted amount. This would reduce the estimated total tax impact of the general fund budget to $3.435 per 1,000 in millage value. Estimated tax impact is $3.52.7. That's with the contract, the $67,925 included. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 3-0. Recommended by the Budget Committee, 6-0. Is there a motion? Motion. There's a motion and a second. And again, the difference in this, based on the two articles, is if the purchase were approved, then the millage on this one would drop down to $3.43.5 versus the $3.52.7. Open for comment. Oh, did we have a vote? I'm sorry. Motion a second. Okay. All right, I'm looking at you. Okay. Doug, next slide. If you want, Mr. Hadlock, you want me to go through the departments or?
No.
No, okay.
I have questions out of it. When you're preparing some of this stuff on it, the town of Littleton in turn, how many new homes were issued building permits? I'm asking the selectmen. How many new homes were issued?
I don't have that number
That
here.
increases the assessment valuations. That's the reason why I'm asking.
Yes, they can, but the amount of new single-family homes was not of a significant number.
Double, I'm asking the same thing on it.
We can get you the total.
No, I don't want we to get. I want to know that you have it available when I ask the question.
Well, I try to be prepared for every question. Sometimes you're not. And,
Well,
and I'm not going to make up a number. I'll be more than happy to get it to
the same
you.
identical question out of it is, I've seen this down where our office is, there's a new building built down here. And then up in the industrial park, there's another one. And well as the one that you have up in the old Hitchner out of it. And that all has got a general value pertaining to what you're talking about. So consequently, you need to have that information so the public in turn can look to make judgments on the basis of what it is. In other words, if you didn't have any construction, your taxes are going to go up on the basis of your assessments and dealing with it. Now, there's another one that's in here, which is the dam over here on it. The dam has a 5-year commitment and a contract out of it. They're in the process of putting an additional generator, attaching it to the dam. Have they applied for a permit, number one? Number two, it says in the contract that if they put that in, we're going to have another $100,000 of tax revenue coming in on the dam. That is all pertinent information when you're talking about budgets that you need to be able to have, you need to prepare it, you need to be able to give it. Even the Budget Committee needs to have this stuff available, even though the Budget Committee, based on your attorney over here, says that it has no power on it, it has no justification. They shouldn't even have an article on here because of what the attorney here said in a public meeting down in Woodsville. He said that the Budget Committee has no meaning, and how can you put information on the warrants pertaining to it when they have no meaning out of it?
Well, going back to the new construction, as I said, I don't have the numbers here, but seeing a building built, that building is not adding any new dollars today.
As of April 1st, they will.
That building would have to be CO'd and completed and then go through an evaluation segment, and you usually don't see the valuation until the following year.
100%.
Yeah.
100%, yes, but you usually can get a percentage out of the thing on it from that part.
And our overall valuation in the town of Littleton went down about $10 million this year when you see numbers going up across the country, but we went down $10 million in overall assessment.
Maybe you ought to hire a different company, because it doesn't add up. Thank you.
John Goodrich, Littleton. I'm on the Budget Committee, and I don't feel powerless, Bruce. I feel like we do recommend and advise a little bit, so on that. That's one reason I'm speaking on the EMS. EMS is part of this budget. Reluctantly, I voted to support it because I thought it was bad government at such a late hour in December to not support that budget and the plans that we have. But as a taxpayer and a budget committee member, I think it's advisable to consider contracting services where we might do better in the long run. It's very expensive to take these things on a regular basis. God bless our EMS crew and all of that. They work hard, they get certified, they know how to do things, and they get training. We pay for their salaries, we pay for their retirements, we pay for their insurance, all good things, but I think it's worth an evaluation. I did call some of my old friends in St. Johnsbury to find out. Two towns are very similar in population now. Their budget for their contracted service is $268,000. Ours is going to be $555,000 for EMS. However, to be fair, and Milt Bratz points this out to me, that there'll be revenues that come in on this, and they're budgeting, I think you're budgeting $280,000, which makes them almost even. But there's an awful lot of, I suspect, inner personnel support between departments. And we really have to think about, in the long run, which is a better path for the town of Littleton to do. And so, again, I don't want to diss our people who work hard in that area. At the same time, I think it requires a very good study. I told the selectmen I'd be willing to do that. I don't think it takes 3 years to figure that out, though. So anyway, it's just a comment on the budget, and I supported it.
Okay. And if I could just add for that, John, on the next meeting for the BOS on January 28th, we are bringing the outline for that EMS commission, which is to do that, just what you've said, not only review where we're at, but definitely dive in on any talk of any expansion, any additional service, so that you know exactly what that cost may or may not be to the town and how it's going to be paid for. And so we'll be bringing that to the board on the 28th.
Yep, good start. Thank you.
Bruce Hadlock, I'm not sure that this is the appropriate time on the basis of what Mr. Goodrich had just said, on the basis of the ambulance service out of it. The only people, no town in New Hampshire or Vermont can afford to be running ambulance services, no matter what. What it should be done is, and they do this in Florida, and they do it in a number of places out of it, they are run by the county. The county farm, in turn, runs all of these things on it in every county. And you would have them run, and then they would assess your towns based on the same way that their nursing home runs or anything else on it. But there should be no more towns. Lancaster, Littleton, St. Johnsbury, no one in these communities can afford to run ambulances. Been proven the hospitals don't even want them because they can't make any money with them. So to go and do what you're doing and continuing this practice, it's nutty. I've brought this before. There's never been a letter written from the town of Littleton to the people, such as your wife, on it that need to go, and she's on the board of the Grafton County, I would assume, too. And they need to be addressing it, and they need to be studying it and bringing it in as to what it would be. Now, if you did, you would have, Grafton County might have a building up here. It might be assessing Littleton. It might be taking into consideration Franconia. It might be taking into consideration these other communities on it. It would be the same way if they were down in Hanover with Hanover Hospital, because they were in Grafton County. And they would, in turn, basically assess every community based on the equalized evaluation of what you have. But there's no way any community can afford to have ambulance services and run it.
and you wouldn't be degrading it if it was done through your county. Thank you.
Bruce, if I could just comment, being from Florida, and you use Florida as a reference, I can give you a comparison. Florida and New Hampshire are very different in reference to the role of the county. The county in the state of Florida is responsible to provide fire and police services. Right. Cities and towns are not. That's right. Here in New Hampshire, that's the reverse. So while you say the county is doing it, it's because there is a county-wide fire system. They tax everybody in the county for that EMS service. Towns can still have their own individual fire department, but in those cases, people are paying double taxation. They're paying not only for their town fire department, they're paying for the county fire department, and then on top of that, you're paying a tax just to subsidize the EMS. So you are right, and that system works on a county level, but you don't have that structure here in New Hampshire for the county because they're not in the fire business.
But I'll tell you what you get down there is those people who work for the county down there don't get half the amount of pay that they do in the northern part of this country up here. They get paid royally up here for the services of what you're getting, comparing it to the Florida and the people that are running it down there. It's not just Florida, but this is it should be written and it should be studied and it should be going to Grafton County, or if it was in Coos County, they should be doing the same thing. But it would in turn operate the thing out of it, and it would in turn operate it, and it would be done in a manner of you just get an assessment, and it would save a lot of money, I think, and you'd get an equal. These people would still be working. They'd be working not for the town of Littleton, they'd be working for the county on it, and still giving the same services.
I have to agree with Bruce on one level that it should be a county-run system, but as Jim said, New Hampshire is not a strong county state. The state of Wisconsin that I come from is a very strong county state. The counties run the ambulance services, run a number of things that the towns don't. The state of Pennsylvania, where I lived before I came here, or before we came here, was the same thing. It was very strong in terms of counties. We're not a strong county state in terms of services. There are specific services. But last spring, I did a study based on our new model of using a fire department with a ambulance service as part of it. And I went online, and the question was whether or not our overtime that we were spending in the ambulance and in the fire department was way out of whack. So I looked at the statewide data. There are 300 EMS fire locations in New Hampshire, and in the surrounding states, there's 289 just in New Hampshire. There are 28 fire districts that are just like ours, that have a fire department and a ambulance service tied into it. And the way this service is supposed to work and will work and is starting to work now is that the firemen are trained to be in ambulances, as well as ambulance people being trained to be on the fire trucks. So it's an integrated training service. They're not there yet, but that's the model. And so there's 28 other districts, 27 other districts in the state, and with Littleton, it's the 28th. So I looked at just the overtime budgets, and without getting into the specific numbers, we're right in sync with the other 27 units in terms of the amount of money that we budget for overtime and the cost of our services when we're called out, the cost of that. So I just wanted to let you know that there are 289 units in the state that have either their own ambulance service and fire service, or they have an integrated service. And most of them, or they contract out. So all these units, all these districts do have ambulance services, but it's these three different models. And there are 27 that are just like the one here in Littleton. Concord's on one end, Tamworth, there's a number of towns that I looked at, and I got the comparison data. so that we're right in line in terms of our cost of overtime, at least for the last year. But there are some, and I can't disagree with Bruce, though, in terms of this really should be at the county level, but it's not going to be, not the way the state is structured. And that's not a criticism, that's just the way we're set up. But it would clearly be advantageous to have it at that level, but it's not. Thank you.
Rudy Johnson, Littleton. You guys already know, the only time, I come up here, it's because money. I'm always concerned about money. I'm always concerned about the taxpayer. I'm always concerned about people that make $15 an hour, And I'm just going to ask you guys a question. That's the only reason. Otherwise, everything that you guys do, it's hard job. And I don't want to be in your place, for sure. But anyway, let me ask you a thing. I got it over here that $3.52. It's on a $10 million budget that you guys have it, or less than that? The last time we talked about, budgeted the town budget, right? You were talking about the $10 million, which it would have bring the taxation to about $3.52. Right or wrong?
Let me get my sheet here.
Okay. Oh, it's right there.
Hang on. The budget amount,
Yeah.
Rudy, is $3. Well, you have two choices depending on what passes. I mean, it's the $3 and $3.43.5 per 1,000 is what would fund the general fund budget, and that can change based on that other article involving the sweeper versus the contract. So that is the total amount that is necessary to fund your overall general fund budget.
Yeah, but that was figured out on $10 million budget that the town would have, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, the last time, I talked with you guys and stuff like that, you went down to 98.6 cents, okay? Do this 98.6 cents for the new taxes instead of that $3.52, it's what budget from the town? $10 million, $8 million? What's going on?
I'm not sure I understood.
Okay. Right now, according to this paper, that you guys just gave, it's about 98 cents, 98.6 cents, okay? How do you figure the 98.6 cents when you got over there $3.52?
That's the difference between last year's tax rate and this year's tax rate to raise the money, which we can get to some additional slides that will help explain that, because there is a $1,330,486 increase. So that 98.6 cents that you talk about, there's two. The 98.6 cents is if you contract the sweeper, and it's 89.4 cents if you buy the sweeper. So it can be a lower millage rate, but the millage rate to get us to fund this budget, that's the difference between last year's millage rate and this year's millage rate.
That
For all articles.
Oh, for all?
Excuse me. The 9.86 is counting everything that's on there. If we're dealing with the town budget, it's a 72 cents, 0.2 cents for the general fund.
And one more question, it's really, I want you to be honest and stuff like that. You guys have 85 employees that work for the town of Littleton, all right? Now, everybody knows that all these 85 employees, they have a raise this year. They had a raise. That's mean the paycheck went up, okay? That's the way you end up to be a $10 million budget for the town?
Meaning, is there a raise in this?
The raise, 86 employees.
Yeah.
That they
Well-
work for the town of Littleton, they all got a raise 2022, for 2022.
No, the raise was for 2021. The raise for 2022 hasn't been approved. It would be in this budget.
Okay, it's 2021, probably the end of the year, right? You guys give a raise.
And the raises only dealt with non-union employees. Those are dealt with in a separate legal contract negotiation, which we'll be dealing with one of those later. So the general employees who were non-unionized got a 3% raise.
Okay. That just mean that $10 million budget that the town of Littleton, you know,
Yeah.
bring it to the taxpayer, will it come up? Just about the one article, it said?
If you're asking, is there a raise in there?
Yeah.
A proposed raise of 3%?
Yeah.
When we're facing inflation
Yeah.
close to 6%?
It is?
Yes, there's a 3% raise.
There
in
is a
there
3%
for-
raise.
For the general, non-union employees.
That's why, you know, you end up with the $10 million on a
Well-
town budget.
When we get to a few other slides, I can show you where the significant increase came.
And you also end up with the $3.52 on a tax, right?
For the general fund.
For the general fund.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
Hey, guys.
We have someone already queued. Tom, if you don't mind. Hey, Tom, if you don't mind, we had someone queued up in the back there, I think, wants to speak. Well, you're on deck.
Thank you. Tim Monahan, I'm a Littleton resident. I just want to address some of the inaccuracies with the EMS discussion that we had a few minutes ago. The first is while St. Johnsbury and Littleton are pretty comparable in a lot of ways, EMS coverage is not one of them. We have right now the fire-based EMS system, as you guys are all aware. St. Johnsbury has a private service which covers a number of towns, and I'm not sure on the exact number because I didn't think I'd have to speak today, but they cover a number of towns and they run a lot thinner. We have the ability to flex up, especially Monday through Friday during business hours, during peak times when we have some extra people on, and we have people that we can call back in. That's not available to St. Johnsbury. So when they can't get an ambulance, people wait. So that's a huge thing if you're having a medical emergency, right? The second, to Mr. Hadlock's point, there's a couple of EMS publications, one being GEMS and the other being EMS World. Those are journals and magazines respectively. They do a salary survey. GEMS does it almost every year, and EMS World does it every few years. And if you look at the data, EMTs make about $1,500 to $2,000 annually more here. Paramedics actually make about $2,000 less here than the counterparts in Florida. So we're pretty on par with the rest of the country, with the exception being the Pacific Northwest has by far the best pay in the country. I had one other point, and I'm sorry.
So we can come back to you
All
too
right.
if you
Yeah,
think of it.
that's thank you.
Tom Alt. Will Rogers said, "This world would be a great place to dance in if you didn't have to pay the fiddler." So Rudy, just because it doesn't show on this year, yeah, you're going to pay when it comes next year and the year after. It's part of the process, sorry. Someday you can go to Glenwood with the rest of us and not worry about it, okay? On the other hand, I'm looking around at who's in the room here, and I don't see a lot of my old friends, like the 75-year-old plumber that's still working because he can't afford to retire, and when he sees another tax increase come along, it's a problem. These are some overwhelming figures for a whole lot of people in this town that have lived here for a whole long time, and they're trying to keep up with these increases. On a personal basis, my half-year tax bill just went up $300, and that's 14%. That's a big number, no matter how you cut it. And that's not sustainable. Can't happen. So some things have to give. And these poor folks at home that aren't here tonight, that aren't making the big money in this town, they'll come and vote, and they'll look at each warrant article, and they'll say, well, Board of Selectmen say yes, 3-0. Budget Committee says yes, 6-0. But they don't have what's in your pocket. They're trying to get it. I mean, they're doing a good job, don't get me wrong, but another old lady on Highland Avenue trying to make it month to month on Social Security, and somebody will say, just went up 5.9%. Well, that's a record. That's the first time ever. I've been collecting Social Security for 13 years. In a whole lot of years, it was that much. In other years, it was 1%. Here's a tax bill going up 14%.
Mr. Alt, just to clarify, what finger did you show me? Right.
So, look at this Article 9, and it's the general budget. And if the fire department and the police department and all the other departments just put what they wanted to have in their general budget funds, we'd be here for a whole lot less time every night. But they get thrown into these extra warrant articles. Anyways, the town manager keeps saying, well, it might be 343 or it might be something else, 352. What he's not telling you is that there's a default budget here. And this default budget is $666,608 less than the proposed budget. And you have a right to vote for the default budget if you want to. That default budget, that $666,608, will pay for your $422,000, whatever it is. I got a couple things here. Anyways, it'll pay for a couple of those units. So that default budget is 93% of the proposed budget. So if you did vote for the default budget, you'd be telling the town, I'm giving you 93 cents to do what you wanted $1 to do with. On a personal level, we all make those choices. Not everybody just in this room, but a whole lot of people who either chose not to be here tonight or maybe are watching it on the camera, whatever. But these are decisions that you, the voter, have the chance to make. Giving every credit to the selectmen and the budget committee for telling you what they think you ought to have, but you're the one in the final analysis that knows what you can get by with. Thank you.
All right. What I'll do is I'm going to go through this slide that highlights the significant impacts that we're creating, the 1,330,486 versus the 222 versus 221. First is last year the ambulance service was, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
No, go ahead. Thank you.
Sorry, my last point is that I actually ran a private ambulance service for 5 years, and one of my biggest problems was losing employees to fire-based EMS systems, and they were my best employees. And I think we heard some of the reasons mentioned before were because of the state retirement that we have and some of the other benefits. I was constantly hiring, and so I think, past the money part, we also need to think about the quality part and then who we have responding to you. And I think we have some really great and really knowledgeable responders with a lot of time under their belt. And we can't guarantee that same type of quality when we go to a contractor. So, you know, what's that? How is that not true? We can't handle what. Well, you're telling me that's not true. Do we have control over how somebody else hires their people?
Bruce, if you have something to say, please take the mic and address the room.
Please.
He's an employee here, and he's trying to justify his job and the raises and everything else that they got. I don't think that's necessarily has to do it from the point of what it is. They've all got a 3% hike, as far as that goes, according to what you said.
Non-union.
Non-union, but they're all union people. Most of them are. It's no different than, I was looking at your welfare on here. If you went back 3 years on the welfare in the town of Littleton, we were spending about $60,000, $65,000 a year. It's gone up now to $243,855 on welfare. Why? What's going on? I know the bigger problem you have is you can't ask a lot of questions. They're regulated by the state of New Hampshire as to what they can do. But we're putting these people up in all the motels and paying for it. There's got to be a different way on anything, whether it's ambulances or retirement, the sewer cost, out of everything that we have. You're talking about increases in rents where we are down there. There's a huge increase in the rents on the building, on it too. I'm just saying that we are you're not looking into everything deep enough. And they have to say no on these things on it from that part. You've got to ask a lot of questions on anything if you're running a business today, no matter what it is, to survive. And I don't think it's happening here. Thank you.
I just wanted to apologize, Bruce. I don't remember the meeting we had where I told you why I was here. So I'm also a resident. My family lives here. People I care about live here. And I want them to have the best, EMS response and fire response. The reason I live in town here is because I would rather live in any of the surrounding towns and be up on the middle of a mountain in the middle of nowhere. But when my family has a medical emergency or we have a problem at the house, I know somebody's going to be here in a matter of minutes, not, tens or half hour. Well, thank you for telling me how to handle my business, Bruce. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks for coming today and letting us all know how you feel. Thank you.
Go ahead, George.
George Morgan, Littleton. So I'm looking at the expense part of the EMS, and I was looking at for 2020, where the estimate was for total expenses $524,500 change, and the actual expenses were only $480,000, so $44,000 under the estimate. Okay, that's great. Next year, 2021. Estimated was $687,475. Actual spent $348,035. Hey, a 50% reduction, man. We're doing pretty good. Then I look for what we're going to be looking at for estimated expenses for next year, $555,000. So my question is, if the amount spent has been greatly less, particularly in 2021, where it was almost half, why are we still going for $555,000?
Because in the previous budgets, it was a revolving fund. The EMS was not part of the general fund. And so what you're not seeing is the revenue that comes in to offset that. In this chart here, you can see that we're budgeting $555,039, but we took in $290,000 in 2021, which reduces that number. We reduced it to 280, being conservative, because we don't want to fluff up revenue to hide costs. So the reality of that is that if that revenue comes in at 280 and we budgeted 555, the ambulance service is actually going to cost $275,039 for 2022. So what you're seeing is the difference between what was a revolving fund and moving it into the general fund. And you see the expense side, but in every budget, there is a revenue side. And then we do our adjustments and our calculations at the end in reference to how it gets audited and how it gets looked at. So we have to show you what the expense is, but that's why we highlighted the revenue on there. So if you're looking at it from a cost standpoint, and if our numbers are correct, we should be about $275,000 this year.
Okay, well, I'm not an accountant, so I don't understand this.
Well, subtract the
Expenses-
280 from the 555, the revenue from the expense.
Okay, that's fine. I get that. But what I don't understand is what caused the reduction initially from a $687,000 estimate to down to $348,000 expense, just on the expense side of the house, okay? That's a 50% reduction in expenses. What, we get rid of ambulances? I don't understand the difference. It's a huge amount in the expense side. If we can get the revenue, that's great. Revenue comes in and offsets our expenses. But this is strictly on the expense side of the house, so I don't understand that.
And it was over budgeted.
Well, that's fine, but we're still,
No, the money wasn't, we didn't spend that much. So, I mean, there are some line items that sometimes you budget a certain amount, and then if you're fortunate, you come in under budget.
I understand. That's how business works, right? But missing your target by 50%?
I didn't do last year's budget, and I'm not passing the buck, but I can't address that.
The expense is only through October. That is not the full year. That's the other piece. This was a budget workbook, so it's only through October.
Explain that, I'm not sure.
Sorry. Just to clarify, the report that you're looking at the top, it says as of October 31st, 2021. So, yeah, so those expense numbers are just through October. So it is higher than that.
But it's still going to be up.
Yeah, the estimate was way too high from last year.
Go ahead.
Erin Hennessy, I have a question on the welfare line. So it's gone up 220% over last year. And I've just a question about, do you think that's a realistic number that we're going to spend? And my second question is, do we ever track what the state pays for when they subsidize homeless shelter beds? And how many citizens are we sending to homeless shelter beds, if any, that are covered by another bucket of funds? And the reason I ask you that is because we have a bill before us in the Senate Finance Committee right now that seeks to add additional funds to homeless shelter beds. So I'm wondering if Littleton actually uses any of these beds.
Senator, I can try to answer at least what little I know, is that I'm not aware of that there's shelter beds in Littleton. So we don't have an advantage of being able to put people in shelter beds. We do seem to have I don't want to say abundance, but a higher number of motels than the surrounding communities, and it seems that that attracts, and we end up with some clientele that maybe should be handled by another community. The dollar amount that I've budgeted for, because when I looked at the last two budgets, there was an arbitrary reduction in the welfare line item just to say we're going to save money and we're going to lower the tax rate. My understanding is under New Hampshire RSA, it doesn't matter what we budget. We have to spend what comes in the door. And it's a direct impact of COVID in the sense of, I think, the increase in the homeless in the area. And part of putting them up is to mitigate the spread. So instead of trying to bring in a number that was lower or arbitrarily tell the citizens in here that we're lowering your tax rate, it's fine if you vote in March and you think we've budgeted $25,000 for miscellaneous welfare, which is where our biggest increase is, but we spend over $200,000 on that. So I'm trying to provide a realistic number based over the last couple of years' trend. The positive is, and I can't put that into the budget, is that we, or at least right now, are in a window where we're able to use some of our ARPA funds, the American Recovery Plan Act, to offset some of those public health costs. So we are able to reduce some of that impact in reference to 2021 I don't know, because sometimes the rules change when you do, as you know, you get into the grant process. But I felt, both with the board and the budget committee, that we needed to be realistic. Because if we tell someone we're only going to spend $25,000 in the miscellaneous item, because we're not over on rent assistance, we're not over on utility assistance, we're not over on food assistance and those other categories, we're over on what's this generic miscellaneous, and that's the line item that's being used to put people up at various motels. And if I'm in trouble for saying this or not, I mean, I come from a state where this is not at the town or the city level. In fact, if you're in Florida, you're out of luck. Unless you're a woman with children, there's nothing. And so to see it at a town level, it was an eye-opener for me to realize this is a very significant fund, and there's nothing tied to. So it's almost like an unfunded mandate that we're getting. And we're told we try to put them through 211, all that process. This last year, especially the second half of the year, we've worked very well with TRICAP. They also got ARP funds, and we've been able to lower the cost the last couple of months. But there's been some changes now at TRICAP, and I don't know how that's going to affect us going forward. So yes, that's a realistic number based on what the trends are showing. And I'll give you one case, and maybe this case shouldn't have happened and it's an outlier. One person got $20,000 to pay for their hotel room. And you think of how many people you could have fed, how many utility bills you could have helped, how many rent assistance could have been done. So there's something definitely amiss within the welfare system, and putting that burden on the backs of towns and the burden on a small community. And if the outlying communities don't have the hotels and they don't have the beds to put people up, they're ending up here, either with our police department or they're ending up with our welfare department. And we do everything we can to screen them and to try to get them other services. But at the end of the day, I'm told that we have to spend. And so I wanted to be a realistic number so that we didn't arbitrarily come in with a lower rate just to spend it on the back end.
Mr. Hadlock? Bruce Hadlock. One of the things that I was going to ask about on your thing up here was how much do you have in accounts receivable on the ambulance service?
Well, no, we brought in 280.
I didn't ask that.
Okay.
I asked how much do you have as accounts receivable that you haven't collected?
There is no non-collected, Bruce. We bill.
How much did you bill that you didn't collect? That's accounts receivable.
Chad, do you just kind of have that figure? I want to say it's $600,000, $1 million that we billed that we don't get, because first of all, the majority of people who use the ambulance are uninsured, so there's nobody to bill but the person. Medicaid, which pays a very small amount of the ambulance costs, and Medicare, which may have 2 or 3 categories for payment, but none of those payments cover the cost of ambulance. And so that makes up the bulk of your ambulance customers. What the town doesn't do, what the private sector does, you chase those people down, and you chase them for every penny and every dollar, even to the point of taking them to court and turning them over to collections.
Right.
I'm not going to be here in this town having this room full of Mrs. and Mr. Smiths waiving their debt bill saying, you're turning me over to collections and I pay my taxes for an ambulance that came to get me?
In some ways, I agree in one philosophy out of it, because when you deal with it, we bought all the ambulances. The taxpayers have. The taxpayers have purchased it. As far as I'm concerned, show up in my place, I'm going to say, I paid for that ambulance. I don't need to be buying anything from you, anything on it from that part. So I believe that that's right. But with the accounts receivable that you have, you need to do something about operating it too, as far as getting it and getting that money in. That would offset a lot of what you have if you could collect it.
But to do that, we then have to go into the collection business, which we wouldn't, but we would do through a private company. And that is where
Who does the billing right now?
Is it?
Coastal Medical.
Coastal Medical.
Coastal Medical. So if you're doing that, you can be pushing the hell out of them one way or another to get them to generate the money to get in here.
And I'm going to go back to your argument. Mrs. Smith comes in and says, I pay taxes, I paid for that ambulance. My insurance company paid $500, and now you're coming after me for $700?
Look, that's the way it is in the world. Maybe you're charging too much, I don't know, but it doesn't add up with what they're doing and operating completely out of it from that part.
Well, we have to charge a cost that covers our cost.
Well, you're not.
Well, we are, we're just not getting the cost
You're not
reimbursed.
getting it back.
I know, but
So who's paying the extra $600,000 that we're not
Nobody.
collecting?
nobody.
Nobody? You're writing it off as a bad debt?
Yes.
This doesn't add up,
That's
brother.
how medical billing works. Is you can charge whatever you want, but the insurance company, Medicare, Medicaid, says this is what we pay and you have to accept it. You ask anyone-
No, they have contracts. All these doctors and medical people have contracts with them. I'll give you an example on the health part of the thing on it in here. Littleton, in turn, has a contract with Littleton Hospital. They're not paying their fair wages, or fair taxes out of it. They had a 10-year contract paying about 35% of their money. They should be asked to kick in some of this money towards the welfare, because they're not paying their fair share of taxes on it. Littleton Hospital isn't on it from that part. So that's another out that you could go to, and they either could invest in other buildings or to put them up or do something on it, because I think it's their responsibility if they got a 10-year deal out of the town of Littleton on it at a reduced rate of taxes.
Go ahead, Captain.
Thank you, Chad Miller. I'm a captain with the Littleton Fire Department. So because of the cyclical nature of billing, I recommend that you take a look at it as an average. So this is a report that I generate that shows it as an average from the start of our service back in November of 2019. So on average, we bill $81,000 a month. On average, we're collecting about $23,392 a month for a difference of $51,000. But let me tell you a little bit about healthcare finance. So we can bill whatever we want for a medical call. We could bill $1 million for the ambulance call. For example, New Hampshire Medicaid, we still have to bring that person to the hospital. They will only pay $150, no matter what we did, how the service went. And so that difference between what we billed and what we've collected needs to be accounted for in the finance world. That's called a contractual obligation, meaning that anybody that would provide EMS service in Littleton would have to write off that amount. So the amount is really not collectible. It never really existed. We're prohibited from law by going after the patient by saying, it was really nice of Medicaid to pay $150 of your bill, but you still owe this remainder, is not allowable. So the amount of money that's actually collectible on the books tends to range between 10 to 20% of that total amount as what we might call bad debt, somebody that is a self-pay or has a co-pay and just refuses to pay the bill.
All right, thank you.
All right.
I'm just going to jump in and acknowledge that this is obviously an item of great interest, but we've also spent quite a bit of time discussing it here tonight, and I've heard the select board say that they're specifically having this agenda item on their meeting upcoming. So just want to note that if we want to continue discussion, or if we want to continue to move forward.
If I can, then, I just want to finish running through why the increase or what you see. As we said, the 555 was not in last year's general fund budget. It was a revolving fund. So that increase comes in. Yes, we have revenue coming in that will offset it, but we have to budget for that amount. The 67,925 is if we contracted the sweeper. The voters will have an option to contract or to purchase. If they purchase, this 67,925 will be eliminated from that figure. Health insurance went up 12.6%. We don't control that. We're a small entity. We're not a big market, so we don't have a lot of options when we deal with our healthcare contractor and provider. New Hampshire retirement increases went up by the state in reference to the overall system. So we don't have any control over the fact that we've got to contribute an additional $208,000 in 2022. This 375 is a new expense, but again, I will show you how that's offset. In the past budgets, if you wanted to find my salary, it might have been partly in the wastewater treatment plant and partly in the general fund. So for transparency aspect, we've taken 100% of employee costs and we put them in the general fund. But of a certain percentage of employees who are in the general fund, we provide a service for the wastewater treatment plant. We collect their bills. Lori does the finances. Doug manages the plant. So you're seeing this 375 increase because that amount had been shifted over to the wastewater treatment plant. So we're bringing it back, but the offset is that we will be charging the wastewater treatment plant $375,000. It'd be like a business contracting with us to provide their accounting, their HR, and their billing and their collection. So it's almost a wash, but it does show up in here based on how we have to report it as part of the $1,330,000. The welfare cost, we tried to budget based on historical accuracy. I'm hoping ARPA, all these acronyms, the American Recovery Plan Act, will help us reduce some of that. We did have an increase in some contracts and employment contracts for employment and services, which includes the union. It also includes a contract for our grant company and also increased legal fees. But then the debt capital, when the question got asked earlier about what's our debt rate and how are we going, is being reduced by $332,112. So by adding some items back, we're not going above and beyond where we were at. Actually, we're staying even below where we were at. So if you take the $1,330,486, you subtract the $375 payment that will come over from the wastewater treatment plant, and that gets you down to $955,486. If we are able to bring in $280,000 in ambulance revenue, then that brings that increase to $680,447. So, but we have to show you the expenses, and that's how that's budgeted, but we know that there are going to be some factors in there that will reduce that increase.
You're billing the wastewater treatment plant pertaining to it. They're governed, there's 1,500 customers on the sewer bills in the town of Littleton out of it, plus what they get when they dump the things in there as far as that part. The law, the federal law says the only thing that you can charge is 9%. They're already charging the 9%. So how are you going to get another $350,000 out of them when they can't charge any more?
This was already coming out of them. It was just my salary was shifted to them, so they were already paying it. This is just putting everything all in the general fund budget for a transparency standpoint, so you can find out where every penny is. So it isn't a new expense. It's an expense that they've indirectly been subsidized by moving my salary, using me as an example, to that fund. So when the dollars are said and done, it's a wash. It's just the way we're changing the accounting aspect so that you can see where 100% of the fund is.
Yeah, it's a blind leading the blind. Thank you.
George Morgan, Littleton. So my last comment on the EMS stuff. It sounds to me like running our own ambulance service is never going to be a net zero because we're only getting back about 20% of our costs. When we contracted ambulance, the cost, the monies to get from the clients that were served is on the company that we hired to do us. It's not on us. They get the money. So it seems to me it's a lot cheaper. I'm missing something, but it seems to me it's a lot cheaper for the taxpayer to have a contract EMS service than it is to have our own. That's it. I'm done.
If I may, just as the fire chief, just to comment on that, the cost neutral of the $280,000, my understanding is that's what the ambulance service was charging us or wanted to charge us then this was prior to my arrival, to continue on in a 5-year contract with a 3 or 5% kicker every year to increase. With the fire department doing this, and that was for one ambulance. We staff 2 ambulances right now. We handle multiple medical calls that occur at the same time, pretty much 90% of the time. From a cost-effective standpoint, for the $280,000 that you would spend for a private service to be in here, which, to be honest with you, I think it would be more than that now. I think the biggest bang for our buck is for the cross-trained dual-role firefighter paramedics that handle the calls that come in regardless of what they are. And I just wanted to throw that out there because we're staffing with the 2 ambulances. We covered the 2 medical calls that occurred simultaneously, and if we had a 3rd ambulance, there are times where we could actually staff a 3rd ambulance. But that's what that money is getting you right now. So just so that everybody's aware of what they can provide.
We ready for the question, Jim?
Yeah, Doug, one last slide, please. And then we're ready. Again, this was the breakdown of where you were talking. The general fund is $3.52.7. Just the general fund itself is an increase of 72.2, and that number could be impacted, in the lower bottom on whether or not the sweeper is purchased or contracted. If you count all warrant articles and with the contract sweeper, then you're at 98.6 cents per 1,000. If the sweeper wasn't contracted and purchased, then we have an annual increase on all items of 89.4 cents per 1,000. That's the last slide in reference to the general fund, and I'd be ready then for, if there's no more comments, call for the question.
Any more deliberation? Okay. Pose the question, Article 9, General Fund Operating Budget. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Ayes have it. Move to Article 10. Oops, yes.
I move reconsideration on all the votes we've previously taken, and I ask that everybody vote no.
You asked that, so let me just make sure I understand. You're making a motion that we restrict reconsideration on every vote that's passed already tonight, and that you'd like everyone to vote in favor of your motion?
Well, my motion would be to reconsider all of the votes, and I would ask everyone to vote no, so that they cannot be reconsidered again. Or however you want me to say that,
Yeah, so
Mr. Moderator.
I'd suggest the positive form of that, which would be you'd like to restrict reconsideration, so it would not be allowed for any of the votes that have already been taken, and therefore you'd want everyone to vote yes, that we will vote with you to restrict reconsideration.
As you said, Mr. Moderator. Thank you.
Thank you. So the motion's been made. It's not an amendment to an article, so it doesn't have to be in writing.
Is there a second?
So is there a second to the motion just made?
You have a second?
We have a second. Any discussion on that? Okay, all those in favor, just to repeat one last time, to restrict reconsideration on every vote that has been taken already tonight, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion passes, so we will not reconsider any articles, including 35 through 45 that were already discussed, as well as 2 through 9. Moving to Article 10.
Article 10, collective bargaining agreement, asks me to see if the town will vote to approve the cost items included in the collective bargaining agreement for a 1-year reached between the Board of Selectmen and the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, Council 93, Local 1348, which calls for an increase in wages and benefit at the current staffing levels for as follows. For year 2022, this would be from April through December. The cost would be $45,484. And further, to raise and appropriate from taxation the sum of $45,484 for fiscal year 2022. Such sum representing the additional costs attributable to the increase in wages and benefits over those of the appropriation at the current staffing levels paid in the prior fiscal year. The estimated tax impact on this is 0.062 cents per thousand, recommended by the Board of Selectmen 2-1, recommended by the Budget Committee 4-0. Is there a motion?
Motion. Second.
We have a motion and a second, open for discussion.
Seeing no discussion, we'll move to the vote on Article 10. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Article 11.
Article 11, special town meeting. Shall the town, if warrant Article 10, which you just approved, is defeated, authorizing the governing body to call one special meeting at its option to address warrant Article 10, cost items only. Estimated tax impact is none. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 3-0. Recommended by the Budget Committee, 3-1. Is there a motion? We have a motion and a second. Open for discussion.
Seeing no discussion, we'll move to the vote. Article 11. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Ayes have it. Article 12.
Article 12, 2022 sewer operating budget. Shall the town raise and appropriate an operating budget for the sewer department, the amount set forth on the budget posted with the warrant or as amended by a vote of the first session for the purpose set forth therein, totaling $1,068,480. Said sum to come from the sewer fund and be offset by user fees. Of this amount, $693,117 will be used for direct expenses associated with running the sewer system, and $375,363 will be used to reimburse the general fund for indirect expenses included in Article 9 operating budget, such as salaries. Should this article be defeated, the default budget shall be $1,073,981, which is the same as last year, with certain adjustments required by previous action of the town or by the law or the governing body, may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 40:13, Roman numeral 10, and Roman numeral 16 to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only. Estimated tax impact is none. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 3-0. Recommended by the Budget Committee, 4-0. Is there a motion? Who was the second? Milt. Okay. There's a second and a motion. Open for discussion.
Seeing no discussion, we'll move to vote. Article 12. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Article 13.
Article 13, 2022 Water and Light Operating Budget. Shall the town raise and appropriate as an operating budget for the Water and Light Department, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amount set forth on the budget posted with the warrant or as amended by the vote of the first session for the purpose set forth therein, totaling $11,407,155. Said sum to be offset by user fees. Should this article be defeated, the default budget shall be $11,448,545, which is the same as last year, with certain adjustments required by previous action by the town or by law or the governing body that may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 40:13, Roman numeral 10, and Roman numeral 16 to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only. Estimated tax impact, none. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 3-0. Recommended by the Budget Committee, 4-1. Is there a motion? Second? We have a motion and a second. Open for discussion.
Seeing no discussion, we'll move to the vote. Article 13, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Ayes have it, and ayes did have 12 also, I just didn't say it. Article 14.
Article 14, Police, transfer to part-time officer training expendable trust fund to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 to be placed in the police part-time officer training expendable trust fund previously established in 2019 by Article 23, fund limit of $50,000, and 2020 Article 34, $10,000 annual limit. This sum is the equivalent to the unexpended 2021 appropriation balance for police full-time and part-time wages, and is to come from the unassigned fund balance with no amount to be raised by taxation. The estimated tax impact is none. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen is 3-0. Recommended by the Budget Committee is 4-0. And what this is saying is that when the police department budgets its staff, they budget as if they're fully budgeted, every position is filled. And then, as with any organization, you have changeover and turnover and times when people, aren't there. And this is taking $10,000 out of that personnel payroll line item that goes then strictly over to training for the part-time officers. Do we have a motion? We have a motion. Second. Second? I have a second. We have a motion and a second. Open for discussion.
We have no discussion. We'll take the vote. Article 14. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Article 15.
Article 15, Police Vehicle and Equipment Capital Reserve Fund Appropriation. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate from taxation the sum of $50,000 to be added to the Police Vehicle and Equipment Capital Reserve Fund previously established in 2020 under Article 33 under the provisions of RSA 35:1. Estimated tax impact is 0.068 cents per 1,000. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 3-0. Recommended by the Budget Committee, 4-0. Is there a motion? We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. Open for discussion.
Tom Alt, can we have an idea what the balance is in that fund?
Is it 150? Okay. We have 100, so this would make it 150.
Okay, and
Oh.
is,
Hang on.
yep,
Okay. This would bring us to 100, and then it would be on next year, and then that 150 is then used to replace the vehicles that the police has on our vehicle replacement cycle so that you don't have the tax.
so we don't look at an ever-increasing balance fund?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Rudy Jesse, Littleton. Don't the town put this $50,000 on a budgeting for the new SUV that the police station get every year? It's already included in a town budgeting, right? Why over here they say, it's just going to be a tax appropriation? You want the taxpayer to pay twice? What's the scoop?
It's not budgeted twice. This isn't in the general fund. This was a warrant article that was approved in 2020.
2020, yes.
That started the
By
whole.
Mr. Schuyler, I know.
Yeah,
I know.
but it started the process of building a capital reserve, so when you go to buy vehicles, you already have the money raised, and you don't have to come in and ask people to raise the taxes.
But according to warrant article 35, right? I'm sorry, 15, right? Don't you say that the $50,000 is going to be a tax appropriation from the taxpayer? If they vote yes, you don't know yet. But in meantime, the town budget, it already has that $50,000 to buy the new SUV for the police station.
No, well, we have 50,000 from 2020.
Yeah.
This would be raising another 50, and then next year 150, and then that is the amount the police chief used. I think, Chief, was it like 3 vehicles on a replacement cycle?
You cannot spend that $50,000 that you have instead, charge the taxpayer another $50,000 to collect.
Well, if it costs you $50,000 for a vehicle, we're basically banking on building up money for 3 vehicles. So in 2023, the chief would be able to replace 3 vehicles, and then you keep the capital fund at $50,000 if it's approved over. So it's not waiting till the end and then coming to you and saying, now we got to raise $150,000 because we didn't do anything to the years leading up to buying the vehicles.
Just in case the taxpayer, they vote no on this particular warrant article, are you guys gonna approach the $50,000, that's missing from the taxpayer? What are you gonna do? You go inside the office, and you just print the money? What are you gonna do?
Well, Rudy, we don't print money at the town hall, okay?
No,
I know, but.
You know what I'm trying to
listen,
say. If the people vote no.
If they vote no on this or any other thing.
No, just
My
for this,
job,
I'm
my
talking about
job and staff's job is to take what you vote and make adjustments to the budget and then present that to the Board of Selectmen on what you dictate. We don't control the budget. You control it. So if you vote no on this, then we have a challenge of coming up with how are we going to pay for police vehicles, and what is it then that we are going to cut, or what else is it that we're not going to be able to do? So there is a cost somewhere. Something else would go.
You mean you're going to scramble around, to find that $50,000
We would
to
have
buy
to.
the SUV?
We would have to.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Any further discussion on Article 15? Okay, we'll take the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Ayes have it. Article 16.
Article 16, discontinuance of the ambulance revolving fund, to see if the town will vote to rescind provision of RSA 31:95-H and discontinue the ambulance revolving fund previously established in 2020 under Article 12, and to transfer the remaining balance to the unassigned fund balance. If Article 9 operating budget is defeated and the default budget is passed, then this warrant Article 16 will be void. Because if the general fund doesn't pass and you don't fund then the money for the ambulance service, then the revolving fund would stay in place, because that's how it was set up in order to be able to do the financing and the accounting for the ambulance service. Estimated tax impact is none. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen is 3-0. Recommended by the Budget Committee is 4-0. Do we have a motion?
Make that motion.
We have a motion? Second. And a second? Open for discussion.
No discussion, so we'll move to the vote of Article 16. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Article passes. Article 17.
Article 17, ambulance revolving fund tax appropriation. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate from taxation the sum of $275,039 to be placed in the ambulance revolving fund. This amount is in addition to the 2022 user fees, which will be automatically be placed in the fund. If Article 9 operating budget passes, this warrant Article 17 will be void. Estimated tax impact is 37.3 cents per 1,000. Recommended by the board, 3-0. Recommended by the Budget Committee, 4-0. And again, this only would go into effect if the Article 9 general fund budget were turned down, which includes the ambulance service. A motion. Second? We have a motion and a second. Open for discussion.
Quick question. John Piet from Littleton. If we end up with the default budget, so if Article 9 fails, and so we end up with the default budget, and this fails, we essentially have zero funding for the ambulance service.
If Article 9 operating budget passes, then this Article 17 will be void. If Article 9 doesn't pass and Article 17 doesn't pass, I'm going to be honest, I don't know.
We have no money for the ambulance service.
That's what it sounds like.
Okay.
Other discussion? All right, we'll have the question, Article 17. All those in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Ayes have it. 18.
18. Article 18, Fire, Vehicle, and Equipment Capital Reserve Fund Appropriations. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate from taxation the sum of $1,000 to be added to the Fire Department Vehicle and Equipment Capital Reserve Fund Reserve Fund previously established in 2020 under Article 32, under the provisions of RSA 35, semicolon 1, comma, 35, semicolon 1. Estimated tax impact is .001 cents per 1,000. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 3-0. Recommended by the Budget Committee is 6-0. This is similar to the police item that you just dealt with. And so where that is at 50,000, this is asking for a 1,000. And maybe it's the start of slowly building a capital reserve. And I jumped ahead. Do we have a motion? Okay, sorry about that. We have a motion and a second. Open for discussion.
Bill Littleton. I noticed how the police department, when they needed their vehicles, it went nice and smooth. You can make adjustments. For us to set this capital reserve fund up in 2020, and we keep putting $1,000 into it, I think we could save the taxpayers a lot of pain if we increase the capital reserve for the fire department, which they're not using, and the highway department. Fire truck costs you $600,000, and then up it goes. You know, you're going to get a spike in your taxes. Same thing with the highway. They get almost $600,000 in trucks coming right up. I think we really should look at setting up these capital reserves. I'd like to ask the fire chief and later on when we get to highway to see what they feel we should set this at, and you know, maybe take a little pain away from the people, because it works good in the police department. So if I could have the fire chief come up, and so we could establish some type of a number, and I'd make that as an amendment. But I'd like to have them be involved in it, so.
So fundamentally, for the replacement of fire apparatus for us, we have two courses that we can really go down. We can do the capital reserve program, or we can do the lease purchase program, which we're currently doing for the truck that should be arriving in about 2 months that we purchased last year. Looking, you know, at that, there's about a 2.5%, I think, is what we're paying for the interest rate on that for those 5 years. One of the things in my previous employment that we did is that was how we paid for the apparatus, because that rolled over every year to buy another truck. As we went through the fleet, we identified what year they needed to be replaced and looked at the dollar figure and brought it back to the taxpayers and stuff. And my payment right now is about $90,000 for the fire truck. That remains flat as you go forward, you know, with perhaps a little bit of inflation. The flip side to that is doing the capital reserve of putting, you know, $50,000 to $150,000, depending on what the vehicles are going to look like going forward, into that capital reserve, so we buy them outright at the time that we actually need them. Some of the things driving the cost of fire trucks right now is just like everything else. It's the cost of materials coming in, the computer chips, and everything else that we're seeing that's driving the cost of fire trucks up. Right now, my 2 fire trucks that I'm running first due, if you will, and the reserve truck that's the backup for that, one's from the city of Boston that's on loan from us, the other one's on loan from us from the city of Rochester. So right now, Littleton doesn't currently own a fire truck until that one comes in 2 months. So if this is the course that the taxpayers want to go down, putting $1,000 in isn't going to buy me a piece of fire apparatus anytime in the near future. We would have to increase that by, as I said, anywhere from $50,000 to $150,000, depending on when we were looking at buying the next fire truck. So that's the, you know, looking at this warrant article, that's one of the things we can look at doing. We can also look at continuing with the lease purchase program.
$50 would start. Okay, then I think I'd put it in for $50,000, that we put $50,000 in the capital reserve fund for the fire department.
So you'd like to amend, you're proposing an amendment?
Yes, sir.
Changing the $1,000 to $50,000?
Correct.
Okay, I just need that in writing.
You get it, yep.
And to address that, we would need a second. Okay, we have a second. So the amendment which is open for discussion now, is to change the $1,000 in Article 18 to $50,000 with no additional changes to the article. Any discussion?
I can just give you the impact on that would be 0.068 cents versus the 0.001. The 0.068 was the exact dollar figure for the $50,000 in the police department. So that's just using that same figure, which is what it would add in reference to the tax.
John Piet from Littleton. I am all for the capital reserve funds, but I don't think that this year's the time to insert another one. Along the same lines of what I was saying before, let's pay for the equipment that we have, and then when the payment for that equipment is done and we're still using that equipment, that's when we start the capital reserve funds for those. So I would say, I would be right there with you, and I would put the number at 150, but only after we're done paying for the fire truck that we're about to get in 2 months.
So we're short one, too, because they're borrowing 2 trucks, right?
Yep.
You have to, one new and one backup to, feed the other engine and stuff.
Oh, I get it. So he's saying that when we buy one, we're still down one because we're still stuck borrowing one. So that would be, you're suggesting that my timeline is too far out to start putting money away for a capital reserve fund.
We've got a aerial ladder coming up, probably 10 years, sir? So I think we really need to look at it right now and start, because we're just, fooling ourselves.
Yeah, $1,000 is crazy. You pump
Right.
a tire and then there goes your
Yeah,
$1,000.
right, yeah, right.
So on a fire truck.
Yep, great. I'll take that one whenever you get it. All right, so the amendment that's been proposed and seconded, and we're about to vote on, if there's no further discussion, is to change the $1,000 to $50,000 in this article. All those in favors of the amendment, say aye. All those opposed, say no. All right, we're going to count cards. So all those in favor of the amendment that just voted aye, please hold up your card and remain holding while we do a count.
Your card.
Yes.
Keep those raised, please. Bill, can you raise a piece of paper? Just make sure you got the vote here. Bill registered but does not have a card. Got the yeses? Good. Okay, you can lower your cards, and all those no votes, please raise your card and leave them up. Okay, you can put your cards down, thank you. Okay. We've 18 votes for yes, 19 for no, so that amendment fails. So we go back to the original article with the $1,000 as written. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to vote on the article as originally written. Article 18, all those in favor say yes. Aye. Opposed, say no. The article passes as originally written. Article 19.
Article 19, Fire Department hose and equipment replacement. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate from taxation the sum of $30,000 for the fire department to purchase of a new hose and equipment. This special warrant article will be a non-lapsing appropriation per RSA 32:7, Roman numeral 6, and will not lapse until the purchase is completed or by 12/31/2023, which is ever sooner. Estimated tax impact is .041 cents per 1,000, recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 30, recommended by the Budget Committee, 6-0. Is there a motion? We have a motion and a second, open for discussion.
Seeing no discussion, we'll go to the vote on Article 19. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Article passes. Article 20.
Article 20, discontinuing discontinuing Wagner Cross Road. To see if the town will vote to discontinue completely and absolutely Wagner Cross Road, fully located on the tax map lot 56-1, pursuant to RSA 231:43. This section is a dead-end road that begins at the intersection of St. Johnsbury Road and travels approximately 615 feet southeasterly to its end. An affirmative vote on this article will terminate the public's right to use Wagner's Cross Road, but under New Hampshire law, owners of the property abutting the road may continue to use the road at their own risk. Written notice of this article was provided by the Highway Department to the owner of tax map lot 56.1 that surrounds Wagner Cross Road more than 14 days prior to the town meeting. Estimated tax impact is 0. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen is 3-0. Recommended by the Budget Committee, 6-0. And this is being requested by the property owner. Is there a motion? Roger and Carrie second. Oh, Milt. We have a motion and a second, open for discussion. No, we won't be taking care of it.
Bruce, can you come to the mic, please?
I said, will the town be giving up the ownership of the road? Not the maintenance, I said ownership.
Yes.
So when it's given up, it doesn't go to one person, it's divided half to the one on the right and half to the one on the left.
That's typically how property goes.
That's right.
Yeah.
So it's not a case of somebody's going to gain out of the thing on the person, they're going to have a combination right away over the situation of it, but it would have to be deeded. And I don't know that you got it in here that says you're going to deed it. That's not what it says. And I believe that you have to have an article in here that says you've got to deed the property.
I can only provide you that the RSA went through the DRA and provided the wording and
That doesn't mean it's right.
And the town will not be plowing it, will not be taking care of it, will not be fixing it, will not be repairing it.
But they're going to own it.
No.
They're not going to own it, then who, you got to put it on here that says you're going to.
The abutting property owners.
You have to put that on the article that says it's going to be owned by the two abutters, the one on the right and the one on the left.
I appreciate what you're saying, but I'm going to go with what the DRA says that we're supposed to put on it.
I'd like to go with the DRA someplace.
Further discussion? Okay, Article 20, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Ayes have it. Article 21,
Article 21, Public Works Vehicle and here we go again. Public Works Vehicle and Equipment Capital Reserve Fund appropriation. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate from taxation the sum of $1,000 to be added to the Public Works Vehicle and Equipment Capital Reserve Fund, previously established in 2022 under Article 31 under the provisions of RSA 35:1. Estimated tax impact is .001 cents per 1,000. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen 3-0, recommended by the Budget Committee 4-0. Is there a motion? We have a motion and a second, open for discussion.
Bill Littleton again. It's going to be the same motion I did for the fire department, which is I think we should increase their budget for the capital reserve and start using the capital reserve as a tool that we need to reduce the taxes a little bit and make them levels. But Doug, you're glad.
Doug Damko, Public Works Director. When I put the capital or the vehicle replacement plan together in 2019, what I determined was that the highway department was behind on their vehicle replacement. So we've, starting in 2020 with the first warrant article, and then last year, and then this year, if you look at the amount of money we're bringing on warrant for vehicles, it's a fairly high amount. And we're in a catch-up mode. We're trying to get caught up on vehicles that should have been replaced. But looking forward, we're getting close to being in a fully caught-up mode. So at that point, putting a capital reserve, setting some of that money into a capital reserve makes a lot of sense. So that's, I think that's the reason why this initially was set up was just a small amount. It's because we are already having pretty substantial warrant articles to replace equipment. So, but I am supportive of a capital reserve and the funds that would go into that to help support and level out the tax rate for future vehicle purchases.
Appreciate your comments, but we didn't have a motion or a second yet to the amendment.
So we have an amendment motion on the floor, so let's address that, and we'll open up the amendment to discussion, Bruce, in just a minute. So we need a second to Mr. Latul's motion to change the dollar amount in this article from 1,000 to 50,000. Is there a second? Okay, we have a second. Now we'll open discussion on the amendment itself.
Well, he's up here making a recommendation. He can't do that. He's not a citizen. Okay? He needs to withdraw his motion and say, he can't say it.
So we did give him permission.
You gave him permission to speak. That doesn't mean he can in turn tell the people of the town what to do. It's not, he's not a citizen in the town or a voter on it, so he just did. And you can't do that.
Is he talking? Is the guy who handed you the piece of paper not a citizen of the town?
He is.
He is.
Yes. Public Works Director is not.
Right. But he can certainly make this amendment.
Mr. Hadlock's referring to the opinion given by the Public Works Director being a non-voting member of Littleton.
He's just speaking to the issue. And
No, he didn't speak to the issue. He spoke on his own personal opinion about it.
We'll accept the opinion of the Public Works Director.
Then I think you ought to get done, period, okay? But the reserve capital fund pertaining to with $1,000 is certainly not a lot of money pertaining to what it is. But this equipment that they have in the Public Works Department, what he didn't tell you was that 2 years ago, it was voted down on the basis of buying these 10-wheelers. Okay, so it's not just a case of automatically doing it, whether it's a reserve fund or what. The community in turn said no, and they still can say no to some of these articles. But it shouldn't be brought in here with the idea that everybody's going to go through and vote on everything pertaining to it. It didn't happen before, and it was turned down. Do you remember that?
I don't know what you're referring to, Bruce.
The trucks. That's what they're talking about is equipment vehicles. It was turned down to buy those vehicles out of the thing 2 years ago.
Further discussion on the amendment?
Adam Smith, Town of Littleton. I think it's better with interest rates as low as they are to bond these purchases than to have the taxpayers set their money aside for years at a time, not earning anything.
Further discussion on the amendment before we take a vote? Okay, we'll take a vote on the amendment to change the dollar amount from $1,000 to $50,000. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The amendment does not pass, so we'll go back to discussion on the article as originally presented. Any further discussion? Okay, we'll take the vote. All those in favor to pass Article 21, say aye. Opposed, say no. Article passes as originally presented. Article 22.
Article 22, Public Works Parking Improvements. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate from taxation the sum of $110,000 to cover costs associated with parking improvements and the expansion of public parking lots, including design, construction, and acquisition of land and/or rights-of-way, easements, and buildings. This special warrant article will be a non-lapsing appropriation per RSA 32:7, Roman numeral 6, and will not lapse until the purpose is completed or by 12/31/2024, whichever is sooner. Estimated tax impact is 14.9 cents per 1,000. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen 3-0, recommended by the Budget Committee 4-0. Is there a motion? Second. We have a motion and a second, open for discussion.
Rudy Joseph, Littleton. To this one article, it seems like they ask the taxpayer for money to improve the parking, to fix the parking. Do this $110,000, that's the beginning of the new parking, I'm sorry, that's the beginning of the Murray's property, or it's different parking?
This is different parking. This is involving existing lots that need to be repaved, repaired. Like, for example, there's an area this year you saw the barn come down that
Yeah,
they
that
referred to
barn,
off.
yeah.
Yeah, and so that's where last year's 110 went into that, and you'll see the improvement of the parking lot. So this is not associated with the Merrill property. This is dealing with current public lots, improving them, and if we can get additional lots and get an expansion. We're also doing a signing plan, for identifying and trying to make better use so that people can find where these lots are, and we're directing them to them, to help benefit the economy in Littleton so folks can find a place to park.
Do you guys gonna contract to fix these parking spaces, or you'll let the?
It's a combination. Some projects may be able to be done in-house, some are contracted out.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Any further discussion on 22? We'll take the vote. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, say no. Ayes have it. 23.
Article 23, Public Works, Road and Sidewalk Improvements. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate from taxation the sum of $500,000 for the purpose of improvements, replacements, or repair of roads and sidewalks. This special warrant article will be non-lapsing appropriation per RSA 32:7, Roman numeral 6, and will not lapse until the purpose is completed or by 12/31/27, whichever is sooner. The estimated tax impact of this is 0.67.8 cents per $1,000, recommended by the Board of Selectmen 3-0, recommended by the Budget Committee 4-0. Is there a motion? We have a motion. We have a second. Open for discussion.
Why do we run out so far? Why do we run out to 2027 before this thing has to be done? I mean, isn't there a road or something now that is already designated that needs repair. We've had that other years.
So are you suggesting do you want to amend it to say 12/31/2022, 23? Are you suggesting we change the date?
Well, why not? Yeah.
That would be, based on what you're saying, if we change the date, then that satisfies.
Right, you know, we just saw one before, run out to 2024. I mean, if we've got a project, let's get on with it and get it done and not say, well, you know, in 3 or 4 or 5 years, maybe we'll spend this money.
What I can add, at least in my time being here, and I've directed Doug and his staff, I want a 5-year capital plan on roads and sidewalks so that when you're asked to vote on this, we can present you a list of what are the targeted areas, not just in year 2023, but 2024 and 2025, so that you know where your money is going to. Now, in reference to the when it lapses or not, that's you call, and I mean, and I'll be honest, I'd have to ask where that date comes from, if it was, you know, came out of language from the previous article, because you approved this. This isn't the first time this has been approved, and it just may be in the previous articles there was a certain number of years given to spend that money. So I can't answer that now unless, Lori, do you know anything in reference to? Huh? Okay. So
Yeah, I
we're
mean,
just following past
previous years, we've had roads designated. We're going to fix Foster Hill Road. We're going to fix Broomstick Road. We're going to pick a road. We're going to fix it. This just strikes me as being. I know things will still get fixed, but it sounds like a shotgun approach and no real commitment to a particular project.
Well, that's why I've asked for a capital plan, because I think that to ask you to vote for things, you need to be able to see not only what's being proposed in a given year, but what also is on the timeline for the next 3, 4, 5 years out.
So this $500,000, if this article passes tonight and gets voted positive, is in a fund that you'll draw from for these projects on through until 2027.
If that date doesn't change based on your discussion tonight, I mean,
And
that would be the maximum amount of time they'd have to spend it.
And that doesn't preclude next year another article coming in to add some money to this project.
No, and that's why what I'm learning too is we can't wait till March and then start RFPing for these items, because companies who do paving are already loaded up. They've already got contracted. So, you know, to be proactive, we need to have RFPAs ready to go in the winter and companies picked. So even if it's contingent on a vote, they're ready to go. And I think within this last year and some other, that hasn't happened. So we definitely need to get more efficient, and we need to have that plan so that we can identify the roads and the sidewalks that are getting done.
Good. All right. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Kelly had been in line.
Just a quick question. You've asked for a list of priority items to be done for this time period. Will that list be posted on the town website for Public Works as to what is planned to be done?
Yeah, Doug?
Is your question about for this warrant article money, what we're planning to do with it? Correct. Yeah, I actually had put that together in previous years. I have presented, at least verbally, what we're working on for a project list for paving. I understand the idea of extending the money for 5 years, but our plan really is to get that money out and spent on the roads every year. We put out a paving bid and we get paving done every year.
I'm just more interested
So,
in the public to know
sure.
if there's streets being done.
Let me verbalize a little bit of what we got right now currently on the list being considered. Mount Eustis Road, Richmond Street, the Rock Strain area, Industrial Park Road, Rodebeck Drive. Those are a few of the roads that I've identified as Public Works Director that need attention.
And I've also asked for a significant list involving sidewalks, because they're just as important as the roads.
Jim, thank you, Jim. I didn't mention sidewalks. We are looking at the Union Street sidewalks as our priority need for sidewalks.
Get money from the sidewalk fund though to do those?
This warrant article is for road and sidewalk improvements.
No. There's a fund.
Bruce, come to the mic, please, if you have a comment.
Yeah.
There's a fund available for sidewalks out of it that's been paying for years out of the thing on it, not just Littleton, out of the thing on it for a countrywide basis. So why would we be lumping the sidewalks in here when we can get federal or state dollars for them?
Because you can't get enough to cover what you need, and we do have a significant project coming up next year for Cottage and Mill Street, and that is funded with, state grants and in terms of
But you're not going after any of those. It doesn't say that.
Well, we are. That's being funded with
It
the
doesn't
grant.
say that.
No, not this. That is a project that is totally separate from this. That is funded by one of those grants that you're talking about. We do go after grants, and we
We've
try to
had
get every
that,
penny we
that
can get.
sidewalk thing, they did all up by the elementary school and a whole bunch of those things on it in the past. And to get to the elementary school, it was completely funded by that.
But there's only, Bruce, to be very honest, I mean, even getting money back, there are tax dollars. It's competitive, and there's not enough to give everybody what they need. And so this is an aspect where we know better. And I say we, not me, but the folks that
If you
work
know
here and live
better,
here.
why
What's-
didn't, if you know
excuse
better,
me,
if you
excuse me.
know better,
Okay.
why didn't you put it in here and tell us that it was gonna go first and put it in there too? And that's what you should be doing. That's not a case of just complex giving this. I believe in the 500,000 and doing the work. But I don't believe in the fact of not being able to get the sidewalks that are capable of getting the funding through those sidewalk programs.
And we do.
It doesn't say that.
No, because that doesn't involve the grant. That's a separate warrant article.
Steve Kelly. Growing in Berlin, there was a lot of jokes told. Some of them have to do with roads. And one of the jokes was, which roads are we going to pave this summer? And the question would always be, well, the ones that we're going to do the sewer work on next summer. So introducing the flexibility is not a bad idea, and I can't remember the real specifics, but we've had a few situations where we planned on doing certain streets, certainly more in town than out of town, that, we were trying to coordinate water and sewer projects with. So even though, Tom, it might seem like extreme, it's not like the money's going to go anywhere else. And certainly we have a history of needing somewhere between $300,000 and $500,000 worth of work a year. So I don't think giving the selectmen the flexibility to adjust the schedule is out of reason. Thank you.
And you are right, Mr. Kelly. This cannot be used for general fund. It can't be used for salaries or anything else. It's strictly a restricted enterprise or a restricted fund balance that can only be used for those projects.
Any further discussion? Okay, Article 23, the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. 24.
Article 24, Transfer Station Revolving Fund Tax Appropriation. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate from taxation $136,680 to be placed in the Transfer Station Revolving Fund. This amount is in addition to the 220, in addition to 2022 user fees, which will automatically be placed in the fund. Estimated tax impact is 18.5 cents per 1,000, recommended by the Board of Selectmen 3-0, recommended by the Budget Committee 4-0. Is there a motion? We have a motion and we have a second. Open for discussion.
Seeing no discussion, we'll go to the vote. Article 24, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. 25.
Article 25. Article 25, Land Closure Capital Reserve Fund Appropriation. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate from taxation the sum of $5,000 to be added to the Landfill Closure Capital Reserve Fund previously established in 1986 under Article 18 under the provision of RSA 35:1. Estimated tax impact is 0.007 cents per 1,000. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen 3-0. Recommended by the Budget Committee 4-0. Is there a motion? We have a motion, a second. Open for discussion.
I got a path, one right up here. Tom Ault. Just for my information, landfill closure, is that our old dump down across
Yes, sir.
the bridge? And how long does that Go on, what do we spend the $5,000 on?
We are required to do annual environmental testing, both under the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services and under the Federal Clean Water and Air Act. And that goes on until they tell us that they've determined that there is no leakage, there's no pollutant, is no impact on the environment. So
Is
that's
that an annual
Yes, sir.
check?
Yes, sir.
And we get billed by DES, or who do we pay $5,000 to?
I'm not sure. I don't want to make that up. I don't know who it goes to. Doug, can you answer that?
It's a good day's pay.
Consultant firm in town that helps us to do the testing and to prepare the report.
We have an environmental testing firm? Okay.
And it gets mowed, right? Does that $5,000?
Yeah, and highway mows it.
Is that $5,000 for the maintenance? Yeah, sorry. So that, our old dump gets mowed, that, you drive by, it's not all grown up with bushes and stuff. Does this $5,000 include the maintenance of mowing it, or is this $5,000 only for the environmental study?
Both.
So it covers both. This covers the mowing, this $5,000 pays to have it mowed all summer and whatever, and the environmental study. Okay, thank you.
John Goodrich, just a simple question. When you have these things, and I've been involved with these in the past in my professional career, you really should be monitoring the measurements and whatever level is allowable before then you can close it down. And so I hope somebody in the town is on top of that so that this service company that we're working with knows what the limitations are, because it's not in their interest to tell us.
No, but these do get reported to the state agencies, and they're the ones who will tell us if the levels are acceptable, that it no longer requires monitoring, not the company.
Okay, as long as we're confident that's happening.
Okay.
Yeah.
They do that annually. We get a report annually.
Further discussion? Okay, the vote on Article 25. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. 26.
Conservation transfer to Conservation Care Expendable Trust Fund. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $650 to be placed in the Conservation Care Expendable Trust Fund. This sum is equivalent to the unexpended balance of the 2021 appropriations for conservation expenses and is to come from unassigned fund balance with no amount to be raised by the taxation. Estimated tax impact, none. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 3-0. Recommended by the Budget Committee, 4-0. Is there a motion? Second? We have a motion and a second. Open for discussion.
Seeing no discussion, we'll vote on Article 26. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Passes. 27.
Article 27, library roof repair and replacement. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate from taxation the sum of $45,000 for the repair and replacement of the library roof. Estimated tax impact is .061 cents per 1,000. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 3-0. Recommended by the Budget Committee, 4-0. Is there a motion? We have a motion. We have a second. Open for discussion.
No discussion. Article 27. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. 27 passes. Article 28.
Opera House Special Revenue Fund, 2022 expenses, limit and tax appropriation. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate from taxation the sum of $115,492 for Opera House operations. Of this amount, $73,492 is to be raised by taxation, and $42,000 will be withdrawn from the Opera House Special Revenue Fund. Estimated tax impact is 10 cents per 1,000. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 3-0. Recommended by the Budget Committee, 5-1. Is there a motion? We have a motion and a second. Open for discussion.
Seeing none, we'll take the vote. Article 28. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Article passes. Article 29.
Article 29, Cultural Arts Commission, main stage concerts, tax appropriation. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate from taxation the sum of $12,000 for the Cultural Arts Commission funding of main stage concerts to coincide with the 4 First Friday Arts events in 2022. Estimated tax impact is 1.6 cents per 1,000. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen 3-0, recommended by the Budget Committee 3-1. And Doug, you just want to run through the other, there's a couple of slides. For those of you that participated in First Fridays, and you can keep going, that were held this last summer, they culminated with a concert open to everyone down in what was called the Murrow property, now owned by the town. And this would help enhance that First Friday and bring additional local acts to the community. And it also brings a lot of folks into town in terms of that. And seeing ahead, I got ahead of myself. Is there a motion? Sorry, okay. We have a motion and we have a second. The estimated tax impact is 54 cents per 1,000 5.4 cents recommended by per thousand, recommended by the board 3-0, recommended by the Budget Committee 3-1. Hang on. I got ahead to the next one. Sorry, folks. I was it's my first time going through this with you, so if I make 1 or 2 mistakes, hopefully you'll give me a little pass this year. All right. It was 0.16 cents involving for the $12,000 on the commission. Is there a motion? We have a motion, second. We have a motion and a second. Open for discussion.
See no discussion. Vote on Article 29. In favor, say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Article 30.
Now I'll be on track. Article 30, Park and Recreation Revolving Fund and Tax Appropriation. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate from taxation $660 to be placed in the Park and Recreation Revolving Fund. This amount is in addition to the 2022 user fees, which will automatically be placed in the fund. Estimated tax impact on this is 54 cents per 1,000. Recommended by Board of Selectmen 3-0, recommended by the Budget Committee 3-1. Is there a motion? Motion and a second. Open for discussion.
No discussion. We'll take the vote on Article 30. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Article 31.
Article 31, Park and Recreation Dog Park Special Revenue Fund. To see if the town will vote to appropriate $2,521 for the dog park expenses, with said funds to come from the Dog Park Special Revenue Fund previously established in 2019 under Article 9 per RSA 31:95-C. Estimated tax impact, none. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen 3-0. Recommended by the Budget Committee 4-0. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Open for discussion.
No discussion. Article 31, the vote. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no. Article passes. Article 32.
Article 32, Parks and Recreation. Husqvarna. Did I say it right this time, Gary? Okay. Husqvarna zero-turn lawnmower tax appropriation. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate from taxation the sum of $10,000 for the purchase of the Husqvarna zero-turn lawnmower for Park and Recreation Department. Estimated tax impact is 0.14 cents per thousand. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen 3-0. Recommended by the Budget Committee 4-0. Is there a motion? We have a motion and a second, open for discussion.
Bruce Hadlock, the last time they needed a piece of equipment in the town of Littleton out of it, they went to the money that is handled by the, I can't remember the name of the fund. It's the, I think your dad's on that board? No.
Not following.
Young Fillion is on that board. They control the money on behalf of the town. Trust funds, right. And they went, the Parks Department went to the trust funds, and they had money in there, so they bought a tractor for about the same amount of money. Has anybody looked into it to see if they've done that first?
Finance director is saying there's not enough money in the fund to cover the cost.
How much
of the
is there in that fund? How do you know there's not enough if you don't know what there is in it? Well, you shouldn't be speaking like that if you don't know the answers to it, so. But anyway, I don't believe, pardon me? That's what I'm asking her, and she didn't know. I don't know, but that's what they did the last time, and they didn't have to go to the taxpayers, they got it out of that fund.
All right, what's your question, Bruce?
My question is, why didn't they go to get the money out of there if there's money that's been building up in that fund for the Parks Department?
So the answer is there's not enough in there.
Because the fund doesn't have $10,000 in it to
She
fund
doesn't
this.
know that, and you don't know it.
She just told you that.
She didn't, she said she didn't know it.
We know it's not 10,000.
I'm gonna laugh a little bit. Rudy Johnson. This is specific one articles, right? It tells all of us, taxpayer, not taxpayer, you know, whatever it is, that the budget committee, it's so unprepared, so ignorant about the subject. Stuff like, you want me to go buy a machine like this tomorrow for $2,000? Exactly the same machine. Why they asking for $10,000? And the budget committee voted yes. That's the main thing. They know that Escobar machine like this turned zero with the $2,500 maximum. You can buy one. And they ask for $10,000. Give us a break, man. Give us a break because we don't get up in the morning, you know, and we pick up the money. That's all taxpayer over here. That's the budget. Oh, you over here. I'm sorry. No. That's a tax.
You called me to task, so I'm on up here. It's interesting you say that because I said exactly that in our meeting, in our budget committee meeting. I said exactly that. Why are we paying $10,000 for a zero turn? By the way, the fact I'm up here discussing over $10,000 and we've been voting through $300,000, not a good use of time. That being said, it's a commercial grade mower. It's not used by a homeowner. One of the things, so it's a different quality mower. That's what was told to me at the time. And it was also pointed out that the owner isn't the one driving the mower. So it's not going to be treated. It's not going to be treated as nicely. And so it has to be beefier and it has to be stronger, or we're going to be replacing it every 3 years because decks are going to get bent and, you know, rocks are going to get hit, and no one, you know, if it's not yours, you don't care as much. So to answer your question, the budget committee was not ignorant in it. We asked those questions, and that's the answer.
John, I was bracing myself when we passed the $650 article. That went through okay, though. Okay, further discussion. All right, vote on Article 32. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. 33.
Article 33, Park and Recreation. Resurface Remick and Apthorpe Courts tax appropriation. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate from taxation the sum of $23,000 for the purpose of filling hairline and structural cracks, applying a top coat, repainting lines, and adding lines for one pickleball court for the Park and Recreation Department, Remick, and Apthorpe tennis and basketball courts. Estimated tax impact is .031 cents per 1,000, recommended by the Board of Selectmen 3-0, recommended by the Budget Committee 4-0. Is there a motion? We have a motion and a second, open for discussion.
Seeing no discussion, we'll take the vote. Article 33, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. 34.
Article 34, close inactive capital reserve and/or expendable trust funds to see if the town will vote to discontinue the following 6 capital reserve and/or expendable trust funds. The Bridge Capital Reserve Fund, established in 1993 under Article 16 per RSA 35:15. Retaining Wall Maintenance Expendable Trust Fund, established in 2010 under Article 14 per RSA 31:19A. Police Special Detail Expendable Trust Fund, established in 2010 under Article 16 per RSA 31:19-A. Community House Capital Improvement Fund, established in 2013 under Article 36. Highway Garage Salt Shed Capital Reserve Fund, established in 2015 under Article 16 per RSA 35:1. Fire Department Heating System and Oil Tank Mitigation Capital Reserve Fund, established in 2016 under Article 11 per RSA 35:1. Said funds and accumulated interest to date of the withdrawal, if approved, would be transferred to the general fund. These 6 funds combined together is a total of $314. So some of those funds don't have enough amount in them to even keep them open and have a separate line item at the bank. It just doesn't pay in terms of that. So it would be, if approved, an estimated $314 would be transferred to the general fund. Estimated tax impact is none. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen 3-0, recommended by the Budget Committee 4-0. Is there a motion? We have a motion and a second. Open for discussion.
Seeing no discussion, we'll take the vote. Article 34, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. That concludes the articles. All have been voted through.
Last slide, Doug, last slide is a reminder for the meeting.
Okay.
For the vote.
Okay.
Next one. Okay, that concludes the second session, and the next shot that you have as the voters of this community is Tuesday, March 8th, 2022, 8 a.m. to 7 p.m., voting at the Littleton Municipal Garage. Thank you.
We're permanently adjourned. Thanks, everyone.